Hello, Matt here, and welcome back to the Everything is Fine podcast. As I said, I'm your host, Matt Eversole.
I'm your host, Sean Wilson.
And today, we are lucky to be joined by our very special guest, our good friend, Colleen.
Hello, it is me. Hi.
Colleen's appearance on the show has been something we've been trying to get a hold of for a long time.
I'm elusive.
Very elusive.
The main cameo,
very hard to book.
The main cameo that Colleen has had is, if you remember back to the sequel trilogy episode, I believe Connor read a letter.
Oh yeah, I wrote a really passive-aggressive letter about how I have strong opinions.
Yeah, but today...
We finally have her in person.
Today we have her in person, and also I think it's the perfect topic to bring Colleen on the show for, because it's something that she, along with Sean and I, love very much, and that is the show Avatar the Last Airbender.
Woo.
No, not the movie, although that will be brought up.
Also not the movie with the blue people either.
Yes, that's also...
Multiple movies.
Multiple movies. But that's our main topic today. So yeah, Sean, anything you want to say before we get started?
Well, as far as Avatar goes, we all have different past associations with the show. Some of us have been fans of it for a long time since we were kids. Others have been subjected to it very recently and very forcibly.
Held down, eyes open, strapped
Literally,
to a chair.
that is what happened.
Yes.
But we'll get
he
into
wept.
Avatar is a show that has stood the test of time, I think, for all three of us. Well, for at least two of us, technically. And
The test of time after like a month.
I'm getting attacked.
You're not being attacked. It's the fact of it.
I have seen the show.
But yes, Avatar is a phenomenal piece of not only animation history but storytelling history. It's a fantastic example that any creator should really look to in terms of anything from story writing to world building.
In general.
It's a phenomenal piece of art, and because we all have various different associations with that kind of art form, it's something that is perfect for this show. Something to dissect and talk about why it is great. If there were any weaknesses, what were they? And our experiences with the show. So I asked the both of you to clarify, what is your experiences with Avatar?
Colleen, you can go first.
So, listen. Avatar and I go way back. We're like old pals. So I watched it first on Nickelodeon, correct? Or Cartoon Network?
It was Nickelodeon.
And I watched it in grade school. And I sort of hyper-obsessed over it, as most young children do, and I watched really every episode. I believe my brother John and I always would, sit down and watch it, especially whenever we got back from school. We would, put it on and just watch even the same episodes over and over and over again. Classic. Favorites such as The Great Divide, just on repeat.
What a fantastic episode.
Honestly, best episode. Let's just end it there. Truly the best.
All right.
But it went so deep within the culture of grade school for me that we used to do some fun little role play at recess. Like that.
Like any kid would.
Like that Warrior Cats beat where you were like, I'm the medicine cat. Like that.
Yeah.
But you were like, I'm Katara. And this might be a sad look into my life as a middle schooler, but I was always cast as Appa because, you know what? I don't want to know if it was a body thing or if it was a popularity thing.
Aww.
It just, I was just the ride, and that was the situation.
I love that.
But we would all, make up our own episodes and have these dramatic moments, and it was a lot, and I just kind of was there.
I like to preface the whole statement of that was, my sad middle school existence.
Well,
That's just everyone's middle school existence.
Well, it was one of those things where you were told which character you're gonna be because all of the other kids were like, no, I'm gonna be Zuko, and I'm Katara, so you can be Appa, and I was like, yo, tight. I love Appa.
I love
He's
it.
Tight,
big
tight,
homie.
tight.
Love that. What about you, Sean?
So I was.
Were you forced to roleplay as
no,
Appa as a child?
I was not. But I saw. I remember being a child in elementary school, and I saw the premiere of the show, which was the first 3 episodes released all at the same time.
Oh yeah.
So I watched all of them back to back, and I watched the show as faithfully as a 6-year-old with the attention span of a 6-year-old could.
You were 6.
Or however, because I'm...
No, well, yeah, that's probably not an accurate.
Actually,
it's probably not accurate.
Realized,
The show came out in 2006, I believe.
I thought it was 2006.
Yeah,
so I was 6 years old.
It debuted in February of 2005, actually.
Oh, so I was 5 years old when I first saw it. Because I remember I was excited for it, and
well,
I thought it looked super cool.
7 or 8, I guess, at the time. No, how old? I was born in 98.
So you were 7.
Crunch that math?
You were 7.
Okay, great.
I'm 5 years old.
Great.
But yeah, I saw it when I was 5, and for a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, I had tried to keep the attention span there. Like, I had seen probably when Avatar was on and releasing new episodes, I saw most of them enough by the time that I saw the premiere of The Day of Black Suns, the 4-part finale.
Yeah.
Or not The Day of Black Suns. Wow. Name of the finale, the 4-part. What did they call
Sozin's
the 4-part?
Comet.
Sozin's Comet, that's it. I saw Sozin's Comet.
Big fan.
Oh, come on. I was 5. Or I guess by that point 7.
You were 8.
But 8. But I saw Sozin's Comet when it came out. I saw the entire of the show. But I didn't, like, see every episode probably in order. So several years later in, like, 8th grade, 9th grade, I went back and, like, sat down and watched it as a series.
Yeah.
Like, every episode beat for beat for beat. And realized, oh, yeah, that's why 5-year-old Sean was obsessed with this. This is great. So...
Yeah.
I will say though, I didn't have like a group that like reenacted it, but I will say one of my favorite.
The reenactor didn't reenact it?
No.
I'm so confused.
one of my like favorite possessions as like a 5, 6, 7-year-old was I had a toy version of Aang's glider.
Oh, that's
which
cute.
I thought was the shit.
Oh, that's awesome.
I would run
Dude,
around my house with that out.
That.
I ran around my house and just like unfolded and like that was the greatest thing to me as a child.
Yeah.
So.
What about you, Matt?
All right, so
I want to talk about when we strapped you down to a chair.
I want to preface it by saying
we waterboarded
that
him.
I don't even know how I never saw Avatar until this year.
Which it amazes me
because
you've seen everything.
I've gone on this show and I've told this to every single person. I was exclusively a Nickelodeon kid growing up. It was pretty much all I watched. Cartoon Network shows every now and then, but like SpongeBob, Fairly Odd Parents, Jimmy Neutron, Danny Phantom, even the live action shows like Drake and Josh and iCarly and like Ned's Declassified. Like Nickelodeon was the place that I always just turned the TV on instinctively. But I never got around to watching Avatar, which was really, really weird to me. Because a lot of my friends were always like, yo, this show's really good. And I'm like, I haven't gotten around to watching it yet. And I never did until we did the TV show episode with my brother of this podcast. And I remember that after that episode, you, Sean, and Connor realized that I had never seen Avatar.
Yeah.
And you're all like, what? So as soon as the episode ended, literally, they pretty much sat me down, didn't let me leave, and we watched, I think, the first 3 episodes, like,
we
you're
watched,
watching
like, the pilot.
it. And they just like, you're liking it, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I like it.
We were very hostile.
Matt starts crying, please.
So I experienced the show very recently, and in a very short amount of time, because I watched the entire show in about a month and a half, 2 months maybe, and it was fantastic, and I'm honestly very disappointed in myself that I never got around to watching it as a kid, because I totally would have like been dressing up for the characters as Halloween and buying toys. Like, this would have been a show that I really would have liked. And it's kind of sad now that I didn't get to watch it when I was a kid. But I'm happy that at least now I'm able to appreciate it and talk about it with you.
I have the mental picture in my head of like probably like elementary school Matt and a bunch of like your friends at that time, and they're all just like, did you see the any of like the event? Did you see the Avatar event this weekend? And I feel like you would like respond with something along those like, I can't. They're showing the SpongeBob movie during that time.
Sorry,
like,
guys.
I feel like that was you.
Or the Mets are on.
Or like, I've got to watch Mets with my family, or I'm gonna see the SpongeBob movie later. Like,
yeah.
I feel like that was you.
But I experienced it very quickly. I got to feel a lot of things in rapid succession. There were multiple times where I would sit down one night and just like watch 6 or 7 episodes in a row because I wanted to watch it and I was really enjoying it. And I love this show. I think it really, really is a cartoon that to this day still holds up and allows for new things to be discovered, even with people rewatching the show. Because I know that when I was watching the show for the first time, y'all were sometimes watching episodes with me, and even you guys were like, oh, that's like you're finding new things, you're finding enjoyment out of watching it for either the first time like me or the 11th time like some of you. So I thoroughly appreciate the show, and it has some of my favorite characters of all time now, and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's just very well done, and like I think that it holds up very well in terms of shows that, or even media that you really love as a kid, right? Because there is a level of like, I loved, like, I don't know, the Percy Jackson movies or something.
No.
But it'll be like that, and then you're like,
No.
and then you'll be like, no, they were so good. Like I loved them, and then everyone's like, no,
These are bad. These are so bad.
Yeah, so it's like, or you'll have something like that from childhood where it's like, oh, I love this thing, but as an adult brain watching it, this does not really hold up.
This is torture.
Yeah, so like, but I do think that Avatar for multiple reasons holds up, and it also appeals to audiences of adults as well as young children. And I love a lot of the messaging that goes on in the show where it's not so heavy-handed that you're sitting there and it's like, okay, like, I get it, you're trying to teach me a lesson here. And it also feels genuine when they talk about a lot of, like, the deeper lessons that they're trying to teach, like, a young audience, without it feeling disingenuous. Like, so I really love Avatar also because of the, I guess, way that they go about empowering female characters. Because it comes off in a way that is genuine, and it doesn't seem like a, look guys, girl power, girls can do good things too.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, there's a different level between where it feels like, oh, we're gonna write these female characters,
and we're
make
going to
them
make
interesting,
them phenomenal.
give them a personality.
Yeah. There was never
instead
a moment
of like, oh, the studio panics, like, oh shoot, we need to throw in a moment of empowerment or we're gonna look a certain way, and then it just feels wrong.
They do it just by having good arcs.
They're just good.
writing.
Yeah, they just authentically care about these characters.
There was never a moment.
And they are powerful without needing to, like, show you. Like, at no point are you like, Azula's not that tough. You know what I mean? Like, at no point are you like, nah. The whole time, you're panicking if she catches up. You're like, oh no, I sure don't want her to get anywhere close to these characters that I like.
And even her sidekicks of like the girl trio.
Yeah, they're still iconic
both
and
of them,
interesting.
Azula, May, and Ty Lee. They're all three of them are terrifying in their own right. The first time they go up against Team Avatar. And
I also love. Sorry, I don't mean to cut
no,
you off.
go.
I also love, just because I'm thinking, because you mentioned Ty Lee, I also love that they made Ty Lee a feminine character without taking away her level of, I guess, ability to fight or lethality.
Yes.
Like, she's still very bubbly and kind of quirky and feminine, but that doesn't take away from the fact that she's also like a badass. And
I would
stuff.
even say that, like, if you had to, like, I mean, obviously out of Team Azula is the most powerful person.
Yeah, I mean, she's a perfectionist. She's the original girl boss.
I would say that like Ty Lee, like, just in terms of like combat ability, I feel like Meg is the least threatening out of the three. And I'm not saying
she throws knives at people.
Yeah, she throws knives at people. She is cold-blooded, and like I'm still afraid of But Ty Lee, I think what's more terrifying about Ty Lee is, like, especially if you view the fight between Team Azula and Team Avatar.
With a smile.
Yeah, in the construction sites at Omashu. Oh my god! Yep. Like, she just kind of bounces out of nowhere. Hi, how are you? And then breaks Sokka's leg.
Another great female character though that kind of disappeared halfway through the show. By the end, she's like a prominent character. Is Suki.
Yeah, Suki's great.
Suki.
I love her
and you
too.
get her on the 4th episode of the show.
And Suki, like, I love that, because if you think about all the female characters, they're all different individuals who are powerful in their own way, and they also aren't necessarily like making a ton of sacrifices to personality to come off as a feminine character. So like Azula is just girl bossing it up. Like, she isn't trying to take moments to be like, oh, I'm a dainty little flower, and like I'm gonna have a whole episode where like I only talk about,
the only episode where she tries to do that is when she goes to the beach,
and then
she does it as a bit.
And
she does it as a bit.
But they show literally like she is so socially inept because of her upbringing and her own trauma that I feel like people overlook a lot of the time compared to Zuko. But she was raised in the same situation, and she was raised to be the perfect child, and she never really got to like actually interact with her peers. And it's shown as like a character flaw that like, oh, she is like desperately doesn't understand how to interact with people her age, and like probably is very lonely, and she ends up alone.
Yeah.
So again, I think that, again, to talk about Suki as well, Suki has her own personality and stays in her own lane and doesn't necessarily like dramatically change one way or the other to become something.
Yes.
Which I like that about her, because she's very consistent, and she's just a powerful female figure that lends a lot to Sokka's arc.
Yes.
Because Sokka's arc is also huge that not a lot of people talk about. Everybody talks about Zuko's arc, which is like...
Zuko's arc is... We've even mentioned this show before. Zuko's arc is perfect redemption.
Sokka has a fantastic arc as well in terms of like teaching that, I guess, lesson of like genuine female empowerment without it being like a bunch of dudes in a studio exec room that are like, we should make those James feel good about themselves. Like, it doesn't feel disingenuous. Like, it feels, I guess, authentic, which is something I like about it.
Another reason I love Sokka, and you kind of hinted at it when you said, like, everyone's powerful in their own way, the non-Bender characters, as in Sokka, still have so much relevance to the plot that, like, it doesn't matter that they can't do all this magic shit.
And
like,
Sokka is the exemplary character when you talk about, like, not gifted with Bender.
Absolutely.
Even in book 1, he has moments where he's like, I'm not able to control water
One
or
of
air.
my favorite episodes of the show is one that not a lot of people talk about, is when Sokka gets his sword training.
Sokka's master.
And it's like...
Dilf.
He's finding
Master Paku? Alright.
He's finding a purpose.
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong.
Coward.
Is the problem.
Tell me I'm
You're
wrong.
not wrong.
No, but I agree. I think that's a really great episode because it's also, it like starts to show how he's grown into like a man as well versus what he felt a man needed to be at the beginning of the episode when he was still like, you know, a boy. It's a great show. Again, it's just very well paced.
And Sokka's arc is also, I would even argue, is one of the most earnest, heartfelt, kind of like, it's not this grand like thing like Aang's where it's like, I have to save the world and find a way to do it peacefully. It's not Zuko's, I'm fighting between home and individuality. It's not even Katara's, I need to be a mother to this team, but can I also like hunt down the man that killed my mother?
Or like be a child myself. Am I allowed to do that?
Sokka's is that of, all Sokka is, if you boil him down to the simplest terms, in a good way, is he's a boy who watched his father go away to war, and he was left as the only, air quotes, man of age in his village to defend the village from the Fire Nation, which, may I remind you, the equivalent of the Water Nation and the Fire Nation going to war is a bunch of Alaskan Inuits versus Imperial China with the ability to do thermodynamics.
The Fire Nation's based off of Japan.
My mistake.
Yes.
But that's the whole thing. Like, the Water Tribe is so technologically and skill diversity lacking against the Fire Nation, and Sokka's there to do it by himself.
And in the first episode, we see a warship roll up while Sokka has like a literal spear, which again, it's not looking good. Not looking good.
There's a steam-powered combustion
and they
run
are at the South
warship.
Pole, so of course you see more innovation up at the North Pole, but it's just
there's no
an
contest.
unfair fight.
And Sokka has to realize that in this world of people who can bend the elements and people who are trained in military tactics and fighting much more than him, he tries to find a way to prove himself. And I think that it's one of the greatest moments for Sokka in Avatar, in my opinion, is during the Day of Black Sun two-part event. His father pushes him to the front of the stage in the first part of the special and says, "You are a man enough to give." Stop. You are a man enough to give the battle plan to the troops, and he's so nervous that he just stumbles over himself.
And I love that they showed that too, that he was still nervous and that they had failure as part of his character arc.
He loses his mind, and then his dad has to step in and take care of the rest of the presentation. And then what happens in the middle of the battlefield when his dad is injured? He steps up, takes the helmet, takes the sword, and leads the entire frontal assault.
Right.
And it shows he has it in him. He does not need to be a master fighter. He does not need to be a master bender. He is important on his own, just as Sokka.
Yeah.
I love Sokka, too.
Sokka's great. And I love that they started him with flaws. I like that a lot of these characters have flaws, you know what I mean? I enjoy that there's not necessarily a super, you know, cookie cutter, squeaky clean, like, main character that's like, oh, I'm perfect. Like, even with Aang, we see that he is avoidant of a lot of his problems. You know,
as most 12-year-olds are.
Yeah, or it's like, oh, I maybe don't want to be the chosen one that's supposed to save the world and have all this responsibility, so I'm gonna dip. And then that, you know, accelerates the plot. Episode 1, pilot episode. But we also see during
By the way,
some
spoilers for Avatar.
Yeah.
Well, I was hoping they would know.
Retroactive spoilers.
There it is.
Yep.
Retroactive spoilers.
Hate to break this to you guys, but there's gonna be spoilers in here. But I also love the time when we see Aang just fully enraged, which we've seen him when Appa, you know, gets gets yoinked.
Appa is stolen from the team.
That was, I think, the
gut-wrenching.
That was...
And then Toph in that scenario, like, what's she supposed to do?
She's blind. She's in the desert. She has no clue what she's doing.
Oh, can we just talk about the Toph is blind jokes throughout the whole show?
Oh, so good.
It's so clever.
The laziest joke that never gets old.
No, but
there's no effort put into it, but it's funny.
The thing is, I do have to give kudos to that, because I also think that the show, again, shows a person with a disability as not being weak and of what her family felt about, like, oh, she needs to be protected and she's weak and she can't do anything. And they showed her as being empowered and being able to do things on her own when people feel that she can't. So I love that they also had that level of, like, a subtle representation or, like, a message to put across.
I would even argue that outside of an Avatar...
But it doesn't feel, like, heavy-handed, like, oh, she's blind and she can do whatever she wants. Like, it didn't feel like that.
I would
just
even
felt
argue,
authentic.
just as Toph, like, not even just the part of Toph being blind, but I think that Toph, even with her blindness, proves herself as, outside of an Avatar's level of power, it's safe to say that she's probably the most powerful bender in the show.
One of.
She's definitely
She's
fighting
up there.
for the belt.
And she's like 10 in the show.
She's
have to
10
also
years
keep
old.
that in mind.
She's a 10-year-old
so I'm
girl.
like, when is she peaking? What does that even look like?
Well,
you know what I mean?
A Legend of Korra.
Well, I mean, like, yeah. So I'm like, eventually between these two periods of time, there's some level of Toph that's a peak. When she already at 10 invented metal bending.
Yes.
So I'm like, girl,
You
how
just
much more can we do?
And she invented metal bending, need I remind you, out of spite.
Yeah.
Love that for her.
Which I firmly believe that spite is the most powerful force in the universe. Because spite, I'm not wrong. She was captured by the two bounty hunters sent by her family to bring her home safe. And they imprisoned her.
Weird move.
Yeah, weird move. Yeah, her family is the worst family.
Hey, you, assassin.
Get your priorities
Can we talk
straight.
about the Bay Thongs being the worst family in all of fiction?
Ozai?
Okay, besides that,
Question mark,
you
question
win there. You're right, I misspoke. But, like,
The
besides...
Bayfongs look at you like,
Besides the actual Fire Lord family, like, the
they
Bayfongs
suck,
are
though.
awful.
They do suck.
But Toph is imprisoned in a metal box, barely big enough to contain her.
She's 10 also. So
She
I
is
guess
10.
if my blind 10-year-old got out, I'd be a little concerned.
But, like,
I
bounty
don't know if I'd
hunters...
send mercenaries.
Bounty
but-
hunters...
Yeah.
So they capture her, and the one guy chastises her in her box. He's like, "You can't get out of there. That's pure metal." And she says, "Watch me." 6 hours later, she busts open the box, throws both of her bounty hunter assailants in there, closes it, and then surfs away on a wave of dirt. Like, just sure,
Icon.
you did that out of spite.
Love that for her.
Phenomenal character.
Yeah, that was a good moment. Oh boy. If we're just going across characters now, I just want to talk about one of the most, like, heart in your throat, like, oh shit moments is when Katara chases down the man.
Yes.
And she stops the rain. I was like, shoddy! Oh
Okay.
my god.
Set the scene
I
first,
was
Matt.
like, oh my
I'm
lord.
not necessarily going to set the scene, but I will
Yeah,
just
set the
say that...
scene.
Okay, I'll set the scene. Mid-October. No, okay.
All right.
No,
It's a calm, windy
No,
night.
it's so basically throughout the last season, or at least the last half of the third season, each character kind of takes their turn having a side quest with Zuko, and in this episode, it's Katara's
should.
turn. So Katara wants to go chase down the guy that killed her parents and invaded.
Killed her mom.
Killed her mom, not her dad. Killed her mom,
Dilf.
and invaded the Southern Water
Every time.
Tribe and pretty much murdered her mom right in front of her. And
Classic.
she finds him,
I felt bad for
and
that man.
it's just okay. This is the episode because throughout the whole show, I love Katara as a character, but she hasn't had that moment, in my opinion.
She's been like a stern character.
Yes.
We've seen her be upset before, but there's never been a moment where I was really horrified of Katara. 'Cause
Exactly.
Did the bloodbending
The
episode come
puppeteer.
before?
That was
Puppeteer
before
did
that.
happen,
No,
but like
but
I
the
wasn't.
first time you're
But
scared of
she was,
Katara
like,
is in the
upset
puppeteer.
after that. She
Yeah.
was still sad, and
It's
she
not
was
like
like, "Oh
Katara
darn."
was
True,
like-
but there's a moment where she starts bloodbending where you're like, oh, it's
But
all,
I was
no.
never
No.
as spooked as
When she started bloodbending the guy and she stopped the rain, I'm like, okay.
And you learn by that
So,
point
like-
that
powerful.
stopping the rain
Like,
and bloodbending
sheesh.
are two of the most powerful waterbending techniques out
And
there.
she's just throwing them down.
And
at
she's
the
just
same
like, I'm
time.
gonna-
And I
She's
want
like,
I want to talk about two things though, because this
Yeah, go for
this
it.
alludes to two things. One, I think every single character you can point to one episode as like their episode.
Yeah.
And Katara's came a little late in the game, but man, it delivered. And two, and this goes along with the thing of how Katara is so powerful. think about how she started.
I know.
Barely knowing anything and getting jealous that Aang was better than her. And then by the end, she's this. And it never feels...
And how well-paced was that?
Exactly.
It didn't feel like she jumped in power at any point.
The power scaling of the show is great in the sense of how the characters progress and what they learn. Even Toph, she kind of starts off as a prodigy, but she even gets better. But it doesn't feel like she's immediately better after one episode.
And alternately, I'll even say this, Aang, who is supposed to be a master right out of the gate, or at least a master of airbending, and is shown automatically to be surpassing his waterbending teachers, Aang does not need... We all know Aang is the most powerful person on screen at any point, or at least will be the most powerful person.
Has, like, the biggest potential.
Most potential, yeah.
But the point... Even Aang never feels completely broken. Mm-hmm. And he's supposed to be the most broken guy ever.
Yeah.
He never... Because he still has to do the whole cycle of the Avatar learning the elements. He struggles with earthbending really hard for the first couple of things. Because Earth and Air are complete opposites. He had to train his mind completely differently to master Earth.
Which I love that they also, like, brought that up. It also goes into, I guess, the character's personality. Because, again, I guess minor side comment that's going to relate to Korra, but I won't go into Korra. But I also love that, like, with Korra, she had a really hard time with airbending. Yes. Because she is a very bombastic, like, in-your-face, I'm just going to punch you type of person. More of like oh my goodness, I'm forgetting her name right now. Kyoshi.
Yes.
She's more of a Kyoshi than an Aang.
Yes.
So she struggles really hard with that. So I also love that they showed that Aang has a really hard time with earthbending, and he kind of takes up a majority of his time. Firebending was hard too, but I think earthbending he struggled the most with.
Earthbending's grander struggle for Aang was great because it showed he had to relearn his thinking, but the firebending struggle with Aang, I think, is needs
how
to be
he
talked
learned
about.
it at the beginning and refused to pick it up after he harmed Katara.
Aang's another thing, it calls to two things about Aang, his personality, a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is he's very eager and he wants to get into things, which is why he skipped a bunch of the elements to learn firebending first, and then realized after he accidentally hurt Katara with it,
like, I'm not
his
ready.
avoidance said, I don't want to do this if I have to firebend. I'm not going to save the world if it means I have to firebend to do it. And that I think that the scene where he accidentally burns Katara is one of the best written scenes of events in the show, because you can see abject terror on his face, because this boy is trained as a pacifist his entire life. He doesn't want to end up killing anyone. He wants to just save the world in the most peaceful way possible.
It was like a big character moment for him. Yeah.
He's terrified of his own abilities once again. He never wanted to be the chosen one, and this is that in his face again. It's like, you're the chosen one, it comes with consequences, and like a 12-year-old boy would, he goes and immediately vows to never do it again.
Yeah. I think that it is strong to say it's one of the best written moments in the show, but I do think that it was important to his character, and I think it showed you that as well, like what you were talking about, it highlighted that. And it's not a bad moment. There's just so many fantastic chunks of this show that it's hard to be like, that is one of the best ones of all time.
I was even just telling Sean, like, there are like 4 to 5 episode stretches of this show that feel like mini movies, and they're so good. Because you have the entire Bossing Se arc.
Well, some of these were also like...
You have all of those. You have the end with Sozin's Comet. You have the build-up to the eclipse. You also have, like, all the Appa, when they're searching for him. Like, you have that whole arc with the library in the desert and everything. Like, there's so many times in the show where they do that, except really for Season 1. Because Season 1 does kind of feel...
It did a lot of world building.
It did a lot of world building, which it needed to do, and it did it in a good way. It's not like they're just bouncing around. They had a mission to literally go across the entire world, so of course they're going to show you everything.
Yeah.
So it made sense that they did it that way. But then once you get into Season 2, that's when, like, the through-line story really picks up from episode to episode. You start getting a lot of cliffhangers. You're like, what's next? Yeah. And you start getting a lot grander resolutions.
Well, also, I was bringing up earlier... I think you have to consider that for Sean and I, when we were kids, this was coming out with, like, in a couple of weeks, like, one episode of the Bossing Se arc would play, and then the next episode would play. So, like, some of my favorite moments I remember as when I was a young person that I watched a lot was the culmination up into, like, the green crystal caves underneath Bossing Se, where Zuko betrays Iroh and joins back with Azula, and Aang gets, electrocuted, and all of that happens, and everything kind of spirals. all of those episodes that led up to it would be released like one time a week. So they would make like the season, like, oh, season 2 is coming out, and then they would slowly release the episodes. And it, again, so I guess that's like, in terms of those arcs, they would all come out, and then you would be like, oh my gosh, like, what's gonna happen next?
Yeah.
So there was like an element of that as well, watching it as a kid, because, and I give them a lot of props for the pacing. I've brought the pacing up multiple times, but I think the pacing of this show is so well done, which can be very challenging in a show like this, especially because it was over the span of a couple of years. Like, they had to plan this out. And again, Katara's slow growth over the show. We have, you know, Aang also growing, or even, again, Zuko's arc, which we will probably get into pretty soon.
Yeah.
It's paced out so well for a show that was being released, like, yearly. It wasn't, like, I guess, a Netflix show where they have a guaranteed whole season, and then I think they knew it was popular.
Yeah.
But still, I think...
And their target audience being children as well, and still doing it that great is amazing. Because normally you want to make a show that's not serialized for that age
Exactly,
group.
yes.
You want to just throw like a Fairly Odd Parents or SpongeBob. They're not in any canonical order.
11-minute
They're just
little spurts of entertainment.
bumpers.
And then you get another one, and you get another one, you get another one.
But here is Team Avatar with 22, 24 minutes once a week, and it's captivating the same kids.
I think also a lot of, because also I'm a teacher, so I've been looking at media that's been also shown to younger kids, and a lot of the times, like, I think that adults underestimate the attention span or the interest of children within, like, serious media. Like, they kind of think, like, oh, they're gonna like Sonic the Hedgehog, who go fast and is bright, and, like, you bounce around the screen. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's, like, needing the constant action is what they think, I guess, kids will always respond to. And, of course, there are some groups that, like, enjoy that stuff, and that's fine. But I've even been reading a book with my class right now that's about, like this grandfather character. It's that book about the dog sled kid who he lives on a potato farm.
Oh no.
No,
wait.
you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
I read it in middle school too. So it was
I can't remember the name, but I know what you're talking about.
It's really dark because the grandfather just, like, hadn't paid his taxes for 10 years and is in crippling debt, and he just, like, goes into a depression and won't get up out of bed. And I was reading this.
I just relived the entire book.
I know.
What's it?
It's called Stone Fox.
That's it!
Oh.
Yeah.
I just
it's
relived
about, like,
the
this
entire
10-year-old
plot.
kid who has to go into a dog sled race against Stone Fox, who's never lost a race. And he has to, like, gain money to basically pay his grandfather's taxes back. His grandfather didn't pay taxes for, like, 10 years. And then he just decides to fall into a deep depression and make his grandson do the potato farm.
No.
Yes. But yeah, so I guess my mini tangent, what I mean is that kids really engage with, like, serious media, because there was a scene where this guy, and I was hesitant to talk about it at first, but there was this guy who, like, the tax collector shows up and he has a gun and he's, like, threatening this dog, like, yo, get this dog away from me. And the kids were, like, gasping and, like, really into it.
Yeah.
So kids, like, can...
Well, it's because he threatened to kill a dog.
Well, but I'm saying, like, but they were like, oh, just, like, snap, I can't believe that. Like, they're invested in, like, serious and dramatic media.
Yes.
Where I think a lot of people assume that they don't have the attention span for it.
And Avatar is by no means like, I'm going to threaten to kill a dog on screen.
No, but at the same time, there's, like, moments where it's like,
of seriousness
and
growth. I mean, it even deals with some themes which, like, it doesn't heavy-hand them, but there's a whole episode in the first season, I'm not going to remember the episode name, but where Aang has to deal with his first forest spirit, and he goes into the spirit realm.
Yeah.
And people think he's dead.
Yeah.
Like, people just think the Avatar up and died, and he's in the spirit world dealing with spirits, and that's a whole question.
Or I also love, like, again, there's also messaging where they talk about, like, an immigration crisis. Like, they bring that up with, especially
colonization
around, like,
for the Fire Nation.
Oh, exactly.
In the Earth Nation
They bring up large topics, and they break them down for kids in a way where they express that you should be passionate to other people. Also, Aang's solution to the problem, not just, you know, killing the Fire Lord.
Being peaceful and talking things
being
out
like,
and compromise.
brah, you're dead. No, instead, like, Aang, that's not his personality. And, like, we've seen that through the whole show, so and all the other avatars were like, yo, man, you gotta kill him.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Kyoshi straight up was like, kill his
murder
ass.
him.
Period.
Aang,
and I was like, Queen.
Aang runs away again right before
Classic.
the finale because his
Classic
his
Aang.
big thing is he wants to
Classic
avoid
Aang.
shit.
Just leaving.
But he leaves and he says, "I can't just. I'm obviously going to go fight Sozin. I can't just leave entirely."
Ozai.
But Ozai during Sozin's comment.
Yeah.
But he's like, I can't. I'm obviously going to go. I mean, granted, he did up and leave during the planning phase, which sucks for everyone else.
Yeah.
But he says, I'm going to go and I need to talk with my past selves
And
and
a
get
Central.
advice. I want to find a way to end this conflict without taking Ozai's life. Because Zuko was like, you need to kill my dad.
Period.
That's it. Period.
Zuko was like, solve my problem.
Even
please.
Sokka, even Katara, compassionate mom that she is, she's just like,
Katara's ruthless with it.
she's
sometimes,
ruthless
though.
with it, but she's
bro.
like, she just kind of like says, just like, hey, you need to murk him. Like,
Straight
that's
up.
it. Straight up.
Straight
And he
up.
goes, and he thinks, I'm the Avatar. My past lives are the embodiment of peace in the nations. Maybe they'll help me.
agree with
And
me.
4 Avatars in a row. Yeah, you need to kill him. And the funniest part about this is that one of those Avatars is an air temple monk.
I know.
Which is the same pacifism that
Yeah.
Aang grew up with. And she, this patron of of his lifestyle from a bygone age, says, "Yeah, I know pacifism is really great. You should practice it, but I mean, even I had to kill people." I was like, "What?"
Well, she was talking about sacrificing her own personal views for the greater good.
Yes.
And each
That's
of the
much more
avatars,
eloquently put. Yes,
but if you could deep dive into all the avatars because they each had to learn like serious lessons and they kind of have themes throughout.
And
their
they were
life.
all different lessons too. It's not like, and even though the avatars are all technically the same person, they were different versions of the same person. They never had this. I mean, even Roku. If you watch Roku's episode where it's the telling of Roku's friendship with the original Sozin.
Oh yeah.
I think they were.
They
I
were.
think they were smashing. That's what I think.
I
mean, they
there
very
was
well
definitely
could have been.
There was high
there was definitely
emotional
some
tension.
animosity towards
I'm
Roku's
like,
wife.
girl.
There was absolutely animosity towards Roku's
I
wife.
don't know. And then in the comics, this is a side tangent, but after Roku was like mildly out of the picture, I don't know the timeline of this, but Sozin had made like a whole because the comics also dive a little bit into like homosexuality and things like that, and Sozin like made it illegal in the Fire Nation for a while, and I'm like, girl. Look in the mirror.
Yeah, dude.
I'm like, it's
You're
the-
wondering
I'm
why.
like, it's the self-hatred for me.
And-
so, but they talk about it in the and again, big theme in the comics.
And it
that
even
they
goes
talk
forward
about.
into Korra as well.
Yeah, spoiler.
But yeah, spoiler.
That's fine.
But yeah, I mean, even
Yeah, we won't-
Kyoshi.
I haven't seen Korra, if you're wondering.
Was
by the way.
Kyoshi, yeah,
was
I'm pretty
Kyoshi
sure-
bisexual?
I think
or...
she was a lesbian.
she could have been.
She's always
I knew she
depicted-
had a girlfriend.
She's depicted with like a firebender, I think. I haven't read Kyoshi's comic yet.
I have not
but
either. I want to.
She's depicted with like a firebending counterpart who she's close with. I'm pretty sure they're romantic, but I honestly don't know.
No, I knew that she had a girlfriend. I just didn't know who the girlfriend was.
Yeah, she's like a firebender. I'm blanking on.
But yeah,
that whole
point
situation.
is, but yeah, no, the heavier themes of like that are well done in a lot of those instances,
Yeah.
and like even going back to like the lessons of like the different avatars, like to go back to Roku and his story with Sozin. Roku didn't have to save the world. Roku didn't have this grand calamity that most other avatars had to deal
Well,
with.
Roku also lives with the guilt of essentially starting the war,
Yes.
or like not
Yeah.
preventing it as
Of
much because like he
not being
didn't
there.
realize that his friend would do this.
Roku's arc was that of I'm mastering the elements, I'm the avatar, I'm important, I get that, but I want to
Be like a person.
I want to
as
be
well.
a person.
And like, oh, I want to have friends and interpersonal relationships, and then that kind of burned him in the end, which is sad. But
Kyoshi's was a matter of like I'm this proud, like she becomes this proud warrior, this champion of peace. But Kyoshi grew up as like a circus rat who turned to crime. Yeah,
Classic.
the Avatar was like a scoundrel in the streets for a while.
classic moves.
And through like people realizing she's the Avatar, she had to fight off capture and realize like, do I pursue a life of crime as the Avatar and abandon the Avatar cycle, or do I have to step up and realize that crime is so bad? Like, because if the Avatar is doing crime, the world is not a good place. So she's like, do I make this world better and erase that, or do I go back to the family that I had that is criminals? And so it was a theme of family and of morality with her.
Yeah.
And then we got the baddest bitch Avatar ever to live out of that. So.
Yeah. Also, I feel really bad for the waterbender Avatar because he died super young because his whole thing was that he never took it seriously. And then he ended up losing the love of his life to the Face Stealer, which is an Easter egg, which I'm assuming they retroacted. But the original spirit we were talking about where Aang goes in and has all the faces and
he
it's
deals
really
with
creepy.
the forest spirit.
The first female face that they show in that episode is the past Avatar's wife.
And Ko is one of the scariest things depicted in Avatar.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ko is horrifying.
To put a mental image in your mind, dear listener, Ko is this like 30-foot long centipede-esque
almost like Lovecraftian
horror. Yeah, it's straight out of H.P. Lovecraft's nightmares.
But what's scarier, that or the library owl?
I think
the library owl is just a big owl. I don't understand why people are afraid of him.
I mean, the owl's scary. It's very
it's uncanny.
It's unnerving. I don't like how human it is as an owl.
Yes,
but I think Ko is just you make an expression. Oh, your face is just ripped off now.
Ko
That's
is.
a shame.
But the worst part about this 30-foot long centipede is not like it's a centipede. It's not a centipede head. It's the whole place. There's just kind of slit where a face should be. And it's every face that this spirit has taken.
It's so disturbing.
It's a nightmare. And Aang's a 12-year-old kid having to stone face his conversation with this thing.
Well, there are a lot of times in the show where it gets like genuinely like
scary.
Like the Puppet Master episode is horrifying.
The Puppet Master is terrifying because it's straight. That is straight, just like Tales of Gavany horror. Like
it's.
Oh, there are people that go
really
missing outside of town. There's this nice old lady that's going to give us, like, time in. And then, I just happened to mention that I lost people in the Water Nation. Oh, I lost people in the Water Nation, too. Let's kill them all.
Rats and piss.
She invented the grandmother from the Puppeteer.
Iconic,
she's absolutely iconic, but she, like Toph, invented bloodbending out of spite.
Yes, true. As she should.
As she should.
You absolutely should.
It's a thing. There's like you realize.
Is she wrong?
Technically, you can argue that every like specialized area of bending comes from or is adjacent to the creation of spite.
Lightning. I refuse to be struck by lightning.
Lightning. I refuse to be struck by lightning. Metal bending. I refuse to go back to my family. Blood bending. I refuse to let the Fire Nation bully me. And then even you could argue that life bending with Aang, where he like messes with chakras, is like I don't want to kill Ozai, so I'm just gonna invent a whole new bending to not kill Ozai.
Yeah, screw all you guys. I'm not doing this.
The true key to power in the Avatar universe is spite.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've cracked the code. But yeah, I think to wrap back around on that, I think again, beautiful pacing. The art is beautiful throughout the
gorgeous.
Whole show. I love also the distinct cultures that we see throughout it. So I love that it feels as like a fantastical representation of these places without, again, not feeling too heavy-handed. But it feels fantastical and different and new, especially for like, some suburban kid in America. It's like, wow, this whole setting is so fantastic. And I imagine beautiful. It was probably great in terms of representation for, different individuals, like maybe Asian Americans or different people that watched it. Like, that was probably fantastic. Because we have, like, Japan with the Fire Nation, China with the Earth Nation, I would say, like, Inuit or indigenous people of, like, the northern and southern pole.
The Water Nations.
And then, I believe...
the Air Nation is Indian.
It's like monks, monastic. It's like Tibetan monks.
Tibetan. Yeah. It's that kind of. It's that area of Asia, and you could even like find, if you're willing to go so far, you almost find like Mesoamerica in the Sun Callers with the
true. Almost like with the Draconic episode, they almost get into like
that is just straight Mayan architecture.
Yeah, very cool.
In that like hidden city of the sun.
Yeah, I think that was really cool, and I think all the characters I talked to Matt about this before the show, but there were certain characters that they like. I think they were all done so well because I don't think there's a character that you're like, I didn't like that person. Because usually in a show, it's like there's a character that you're like, I don't like her. You know what I mean?
There's not a character that you hate.
Like, I don't like him. He's annoying, or he's whatever.
There's characters you get frustrated with, depending on what they do, but it's because you like them.
Yes.
Yeah, Well, I mean, when Zuko did the whole thing, I was like, no!
Exactly.
No! But, like, also, I brought up Katara, because Katara is a character that I could see would be risky that a lot of people would not like. Like, oh, she's really naggy, and, like, she's always telling everyone what to do. But, like, she is still very lovable, and I think that's because they still give her, like, occasionally she'll, like, let loose a little bit, and they, like, play up her being, like, a wound-up tight character to where it's, like, kind of funny.
Yes.
And they show, again, that she's powerful, and that she's trying her best, and that she's kind. So they show a lot of dimension to her character outside of just being like a nag, which it could have ended up that way, you know what I mean, where like all she does is give exposition, which like there's plenty of series or movies or shows that just have, you know, random character gives exposition and tells the party what to do, and it's like, okay. But I think she's done really well. And in terms of other characters done really well, I feel that we should get into the weeds of the Zuko conversation.
I thought you were going to say Appa, but okay.
No.
Appa's arc.
Appa's there.
No, don't you dare!
I just wanted to say that to piss him off.
How dare you belittle Appa?
How dare you! Dear listener,
how dare you, Mr.
Appa
Spears?
is the best character in the show.
Death to all of them.
I cannot stress to you. I forget.
The Wendy Williams. How dare you, Mr. Spears?
How dare you? Now, when I was watching the episodes with y'all, where Appa when Appa gets taken, and the party can't find him,
yoinked.
When you see him again,
ugh.
I will never forget you and Connor reacting to me just going, Appa!
And like full on scream.
It had been like 5 episodes with no Appa
and then you just have to watch him be sad, and you're like, no!
Appa's Lost Days made me so sad, but like, it was so good. No, Appa, in the words of Connor, he is Chewbacca and the Millennium Falcon all in one.
True.
He is perfect. And I genuinely believe that if it
were
were not for Appa, our main characters would have been dead halfway through the first season.
Yeah, probably.
Absolutely.
The amount of times that somebody is falling and Appa catches them,
or they have to get out of a situation,
or the amount of times that they cannot fight,
or
they can't fight a monster and Appa's just like, move over, I'll do it, or the fact that they would have had to walk to the Northern Water Tribe if it weren't for Appa flying.
Walk across the entirety of Earth.
Appa is the reason why this show works. I think we just end the show right there.
Yeah,
thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks,
this has been
guys.
Everything is Fine show, and just remember, no matter how crazy life gets, no, I'm kidding.
No. Okay, we do need to get into the weeds of the Zuko arc. So
because we've been like skirting
we've
around,
been dancing
and
around
talking about
it.
everybody else's beautiful arcs and their characters.
And while we talk about Zuko, we also got to talk about Iroh as well.
Yes.
So we'll have them both.
Okay.
Gilf.
And Azula. We can also get more into
The Fire family.
Oh, actually,
here.
yeah, no, because I also want to get into the character parallels.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Between
there's a lot to get
Katara
into.
and Azula,
And then after this,
Zula's experience next to Zuko's.
And then after this, we can get our favorite episodes and stuff like that.
And then maybe some of the questions.
But to start off the Zuko thing, Zuko's entrance to the show is, I think, perfect. I think if you watch Zuko's first scene,
it does so much exposition
without feeling heavy-handed, and it also is a great. You can almost tell how his arc ends just because of his opening scene. So the first time you see Prince Zuko is he is on the deck of his ship, sparring with different soldiers, and he's complaining about not being taught the advanced techniques by his Uncle Iroh.
Yeah.
And he's like effortlessly knocking down these soldiers, and he's like mad. He's pissed. He's like, "Uncle, teach me the advanced technique." And Uncle Iroh is just like, "All right, fine. But I need to finish eating first." Like, just...
I know. Iroh's just messing with him.
Iroh's just messing with him.
Also, rewatching the show, they are so funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
So funny. Because also, I always remember Zuko, you don't really notice, especially as a kid, until he, like, kind of has his good guy arc. I'm jumping ahead a little. But, like, how much of an awkward, like... Yeah. I would describe him as like a bimbo because he's just like so silly over and over again. And the whole first season, as I was watching it again as an adult, I'm like, he is the biggest bimbo of all time.
He has a one-track mind.
He's literally just like, I'm gonna swim through this freezing cold water and cut a hole in the ice. Nothing will go wrong. And then I'm gonna get my ass beat 300 times. I'm like, oh my god.
But I will get the Avatar.
And all for his honor.
God. He's just the best.
You want to get
so
drunk?
funny.
Count how many times Zuko says the word honor in the show.
Oh, yeah. Every time
or
Zuko
Avatar.
does something that's supposed to be like, this is my master plan, and it's the worst plan ever, take a shot.
Yeah. You'll be dead by the end of book 1.
But Zuko does start out the show, obviously, as our
He's a heavy-handed villain. Like,
he is terrifying.
Bordering on camp, almost.
Yeah, but
my honor and the Avatar.
There are 2 episodes, though, that I think start to hint of what's to come
in book 1,
and that's the Storm episode where you learn his past.
Yes.
And you learn that there's actually some brokenness to him. He's not just outwardly evil, just always like
just for fun.
No, he's doing it for he wants his family back.
Well, he says that in episode 1 where he says he
like,
wants to go back.
But you don't know why.
Yeah.
You don't know that. You don't realize that he had
tell
everything.
Yeah.
And lost it all.
Because he made like a suggestion.
And then the second episode is Sean's favorite, The Blue Spirit.
It's not my favorite in the entire show, but it is one of my favorites.
One of my biggest oh shit moments was when Aang takes off the mask and it's Zuko, and I was like, oh, that adds some intrigue. And then when Aang
and then they like start sparing each other,
and then in that exact same episode when Aang's like, do you think in another timeline,
in another life, we could have
been friends? And Zuko just stares at him and shoots a fire blast at him, and Aang runs away because Zuko's just like so conflicted he doesn't even know what to do.
Yes.
He's just like, go away because you're just bringing back way too much.
Don't bring up my emotions.
It also is this fantastic thing because when you watch that episode and you realize that it's Zuko at the end, you learn that okay, he obviously didn't save Aang because he agrees with Aang at this point in time.
Yeah.
He saved Aang because he has this rivalry with Admiral Zhao. Admiral Zhao is essentially this asshole of a man employed by the Fire Nation.
He exists until someone brings it up again.
Zhao just likes to bully Prince Zuko.
Zhao is more of like the classic, like, I'm just
he is a campy asshole. But Zhao is like, I found Prince Zuko out here. What are you doing? You're going to capture the Avatar? Oh shit, the Avatar's actually back? Move over, kid. I'm going to bring him back, and then you're just going to be exiled because no one likes you. He's just an asshole.
Would I do the same thing?
I mean, it's bringing back the Avatar.
Probably.
But Zhao...
If I was in Zhao's situation, I'd be like, thanks, bro.
You could argue that for the first book, Zhao is
more of
Zuko's
an
real antagonist.
Yeah.
Like, it's not
He's Zuko's antagonist.
He's Zuko's antagonist. He's everyone's antagonist.
They even have the Agni Kai in the first
season
as well.
And then we show Zhao again trying to bamboozle Zuko, and Iroh has to step in.
Yes,
Zhao is also the one who, at the end of the first season, is the one that almost kills the moon spirit.
Exactly.
He's the one that does it.
To track it, because like we just jumped over a lot of everything.
Yeah.
The first thing is like in the Agni Kai, Zuko wins an honorable duel against Admiral Zhao and lets him live because Zhao baits him into it. He's like, "Do it, kill me." That's the whole point of the Agni Kai. And Zuko
again shows his mercy.
He shows
and
his
that
mercy.
He secretly like has a kind heart.
He has a conflict, and shows also that he listens to his grandfather, even though he berates his grandfather or his uncle. His uncle,
even
constantly.
though he's upset and gets angry with Iroh a lot,
he listens
deeply
to his
respectful
uncle.
And, yeah, exactly.
Zuko.
And it is Zhao that leaps up and tries to stab Zuko in the back, and it's Iroh that comes out of nowhere, which gives two things.
Which hints at Iroh's ability.
It hints that Iroh is much more than just the lazy uncle that sometimes is very wise. Because you see that Iroh moves with blinding speed, catches the kick perfectly, and then throws him backwards. And then calmly...
Which I love that they also took the time to do for Iroh. Because they could have had Iroh be like, oh yeah, there's this character, he's like the wise uncle guy.
No, you don't know he's a master
but
until later.
Well, yeah, but they hint at it. And they also... I love that they also use, like, elderly people as not being defenseless in this universe.
There is an entire secret society of elderly masters who just are the best characters ever.
Yeah. But the Zuko-Iroh dynamic is even more so explored in Season 2. Because it really does become the Zuko and Iroh show. Like, when they open up the tea shop.
They realize they can't go back home at all.
Yeah, they can't realize they go back
home.
And
then Zuko's conflicted of, like, I wish I could, but I guess I have to live this new life.
And then the Zuko Alone episode where they then separate, but then they get back together again.
The Zuko Alone episode.
And then they open the tea shop, and then everything's going fine and dandy, and Zuko's like, you know what?
And Zuko starts meeting people that make him challenge his opinions
like,
of the Fire Nation.
Maybe finding the Avatar and getting my old life back is not what's important. Maybe just getting a life that I want to live and finding my own happiness is what I need.
And I want to be surrounded by people that make me feel
He can't
happy.
let it go.
Everything is once again turned on its head when he sees the flyer that says the Avatar is looking for Appa, and he's like, wait, the Avatar is either in or near Ba Sing Se. I have to tell Uncle Iroh now, because this might be it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you were so close, Zuko.
And what he does is he dons the blue spirit mask once more, finds Appa in the bowels of Lake Logai.
He must become Batman again.
And this phenomenal scene happens in the bowels of Lake Logai where he finds Appa, he charges in, he goes to like try and find a way to get him out of here, which huge bimbo energy again because Appa's not getting out of that room unless he busts out of the ceiling.
God,
he had no exit plan. You know this.
I'm gonna go in there.
And Iroh has been secretly like stealthing behind him the entire time. Doesn't realize, and he confronts him in the room, and he says the memorable lines of, "It's time to look inward and realize what do you want. You're not getting out of here with Appa. You have no exit plan. You have no clue what you're going to do at this point. Why are you doing this?" And Zuko throws down his swords. He throws off the mask and frees Appa. But not to capture Appa, to let him go rescue the Avatar, rescue Aang. And the wonderful scene at the very end of the episode is not with the gang reunited. It's with Zuko and Iroh standing on the dock, and Iroh encourages him to let it go, to let everything pass.
Let
and
the past die.
Let the past die. Kill it if you have to. And he lets his swords, well, not his swords, he keeps swords, but he lets the mask of the blue spirit fade to the depths of Lake Loudby.
Yeah. Also, fun fact about the Mask of the Blue Spirit. It actually is a reference to Zuko's mom, who within her backstory was a theater actor. And if you can read the whole story about his mom. But when Zuko was a child, she always used to take them all to the Ember Isles, and they'd see the Emerald Island Players, where they would watch these shows. And the mask is almost like a kabuki theater style of mask that he then used as the Blue Spirit, because in the first episode, you see them all hung up, which are like masks he remembers from his childhood with his mom.
Yes.
So that's like a fun Easter egg that they elaborated more on later. I'd also like to start to talk about Azula's entrance, because around
it's around
2,
this time.
Can I just bring one thing up about Zuko though?
Yeah, go ahead.
I love how I knew that he had a redemption arc before I started watching the show. That was the one spoiler I had, is that I knew that Zuko was not going to stay a villain forever, because I had heard that his redemption arc is like one of the best ever, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I know that that's eventually going to happen. But it still managed to subvert my expectations.
Well, it wasn't linear.
Because of the fact that it wasn't linear.
He didn't immediately succeed and decide to be good and stay that
way.
way.
He had
forever.
relapses.
The main reason why the Season 2 finale, Crossroads of Destiny, is my favorite episode is because it is the first time watching the show where I genuinely felt so invested in the show, because as soon as Zuko, instead of firing at Azula, fires at Aang, and thus betrays Iroh. That was the first moment where I was just like,
God.
no, what? And I was like, ah!
And that sequence of events needs to be talked about, because that's also very close to the entrance of Azula. We've seen Azula once before, and that was with
She's been established.
She's been established.
Azula enters at the post-credits scene of the first movie.
No. That's no.
No, but isn't she teased at the end of season 1, or am I incorrect? Is it the first episode of season 2, or is it the end of season 1?
She's talked about in reference very passingly in the first book, but then she is brought
because she has that line where she's like,
"Do the tides command this ship?"
Yes.
Yes.
I would piss my pants if somebody said that to me. If I said, "Oh, sorry, ma'am, I don't know if I can bring the ship in. Do the tides command this ship?" I'd be like, "Oh, never mind."
Yeah. Azula in that first line,
but she's been messing with them the whole time, because eventually she ends up with getting the Dai Li in her pocket, which was a part of that whole episode, or the drill episode.
Yeah.
The whole series of episodes with the drill.
But she's been established, and she's had some major appearances to this point. We know that she's definitely not on Zuko's side, but she proves to be a master manipulator.
You love to hate her.
Yes.
You absolutely love to hate her.
She proves to be a master manipulator in the Crossroads of Destiny.
She's so entertaining. Like, I don't even know if I ever necessarily
My favorite Azula line is at Ba Sing Se when she's, I forget I think it's the leader of the Dai Li, when he's like, says something, and she's like, don't even flatter yourself, you weren't even a player in this game, or something like that.
I know, well, she's perfect in all sense of the word, because she, again, mimics everything her father Ozai could have ever wanted. And I think it's important to also talk about these two characters, that Zuko never measured up to what Ozai could have wanted, and he was more close with his mother, whereas Azula always was sort of the wonder child that measured up to Ozai's every expectation, which holds its own pressure if you talk about these two different positions of like children within a family. And we see them internalize those problems differently throughout the show. And again, people talk a lot about Zuko's arc. Azula doesn't necessarily have a positive arc. She ends up completely spiraling at the end, because it starts to cave in on her. The pressure starts to like buckle in on her. And again, I think she's a fantastic antagonist.
Absolutely.
Because she's driven by wanting to measure up to her expectations, or like almost like the bar has been set so high from day one that she just needs to perform, and she has been up to this point. Again, she's been a prodigy in most things. She's the only person, really, unless I'm mistaken, that we see has blue flame within the show. Of course,
Yes.
Zuko eventually
Yeah.
harnesses flame of the dragon in that whole beautiful episode with Aang. But
And she also shoots lightning, too.
She's been
She's
able
the
to
only
shoot lightning
person-
almost since
which
we've seen her.
I
Like,
want to-
very
I-
soon from the start.
I want to talk
She's
about...
the one that shoots Aang at the end of season 2.
She
She's
killed
the one.
She kills the Avatar for like 20 minutes.
And something that really
Robots.
makes that moment stand out is that earlier in that same
Even the
episode...
Fire Lord couldn't do that.
Earlier in that
Yeah.
same episode, they establish if the Avatar dies in the Avatar state...
It's over.
It's over. And then you see him get shocked. You're like,
In
what's
the
going
Avatar
on?
And
state.
you're
they
like,
show
oh my god, oh
it's
my god.
Azula. And it's just like, man, she is just unbeatable.
Yeah.
Oh, but it was almost like, oh no, but I'm like, that is so sick. Like, it was
Yeah.
so,
Well, yeah,
like,
because
holy
one of my
shit,
one of my-
I don't want this to happen, but it was, like, so fucking
But
cool.
she did it.
It takes the concept
And I was
of
like,
the
oh my
Avatar,
God.
because the Avatar, when you first learn about what it actually is, like, oh, they can
You're
do
thinking,
all
oh,
four
it's
elements.
unbeatable.
That's so OP. But then they
and then
start
the
to be
Avatar
like,
state is, like, crazy powerful.
but
How would you beat
learn
that?
even when you're at your most
vulnerable.
powerful,
You're at your
your
weakest.
most vulnerable.
In the
and it's
Avatar
so
state,
cool.
the Avatar gains all of the memories and experience of every past life they've ever had. But if they go down, the cycle ends, their spirit disapparates, and
Yeah.
that goes.
Thankfully, everything works out for Aang.
And Aang
Because
gets hair.
Katara has magic water from the
Love
spirit
that for
fountain.
her,
but
but-
it's
Aang
fine.
gets hair. No, but that last episode.
Of
is great.
all
I
of
think
the
that makes
the
sense,
Deus Ex Machinas that could ever have been written, I'm okay with this one.
Yeah, I think that they wrote it purposefully to be like, oh no, and really add punch to that scene of also Zuko, you know, and everything
Yes.
like that.
I will also say, like, another
And
thing
it was
about
a
that scene.
cliffhanger on that season.
Another great
It
thing
was a
about
I
that
cliffhanger
can't
scene.
even
into the
imagine
next
having
one.
to wait.
Oh yeah,
Oh, it was awful.
it was horrible.
I want to say another great thing. Two things I
I
want to
could
talk
just
about.
hit next episode.
The
It
one
was
last
great.
thing about the scene I want to talk about, but then I want to talk about lightning just really quick as
Yeah.
a sub-dimmer. But like
Yeah, yeah.
one of the things
Comes
great about the
before
show is
thunder.
as soon as
Did
Zuko,
you say lightning is the fourth gender?
love
I
that.
said it comes before thunder.
Oh,
that's
What?
terrible.
my gender is
Is the
lightning.
fourth gender.
I was like, pardon?
What's the third one then?
Earth.
Appa.
Or oh, it's
Appa.
My gender
male,
is
female,
fire.
Earth, lightning.
Appa.
Appa.
Appa. So no,
Best character in the show.
as soon
so
as
confused.
Zuko betrays Iroh and the gang,
Yeah.
I want to talk about the quickness of Iroh to react.
Ugh.
The moment that Zuko starts firing on Team Avatar again, Iroh comes out of nowhere, holds off Azula and Zuko together, which, by the way, we just saw one of them killed the Avatar,
Oh yeah.
and the other is still a fantastic fighter in his own right.
Yeah.
And Iroh just busts in and holds his ground, which you've seen entire season of him doing
beating-
nothing.
Absolutely beating his niece and nephew's ass.
For 15
Beating
episodes
some
of this
ass.
season, you've seen him just kind of be a guy on the run and enjoys food whenever he can and starts a tea shop. You forget for a minute that he's a bender.
Yeah.
And then, out of nowhere, he holds off an entire platoon of the Dai Li and his niece and nephew. And why is he taken captive? He willingly surrenders once Avatar is out of there.
Yeah.
He willingly says, all right, I'm done fighting. They succeeded. They got away.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. And then, of course, he goes on the greatest bodybuilding program of all time, and then he becomes shredded.
Love that for him.
Buff Iroh is the greatest Iroh. But
Love
I am amazed by that moment. Like, it shows that Iroh still cares about Zuko, but he knows what's the greater good.
Yeah.
And by that point, you can officially count Iroh as part of the gang.
Yeah, and Iroh is such a fantastic character in terms of him trying to help and facilitate Zuko's growth throughout the show, viewing Zuko as almost like a son, which again,
Yes.
when we hear about that in the Tales of Ba Sing Se, it adds more depth to his character.
Can I? Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
want to talk about it, but like, I will say this because I want to circle back to the Tales of Ba Sing Se.
Yeah.
But I will say this: there is one moment every time I watch it in Avatar, and I don't like cry or get emotional at movies or anything like that.
Dude, when Leaves from the Vine
Every
comes on,
time I hear the opening chord of Leaves from the Vine,
oh
I
my
tear
God.
up.
Oh
I
my
tear up
God.
every time.
It's crushing because imagine also because Matt kind of saw the episode and you were kind of like, oh, that was. So
That's what I
cool.
wanted to bring up because everyone unanimously says this is like at least a top 5 episode of Avatar, and I think
Top
it is.
3.
I think it's great, but I think it's great in the sense of like I like Iroh's tale and I like Zuko's tale, and the rest are kind of just like
Not Sokka's slam poetry.
it's good.
Yeah, there was some
It's
forgettable
funny,
moments.
but like Aang's tale and like the animals is kind of meh, and like
The Tale of
Yeah.
Momo.
the tale of Momo just kind of ends the episode, and it's really just there to show that Appa's there. And like I don't get me wrong, I thought it was good, but it didn't live up to my expectations, and it's probably due to the fact that my expectations were so high. Because I'm expecting... It is a very ballsy episode in the sense that it's not at all like the rest. It's very different from everything else. Yeah. And it's not what you expect, because when you first get to Ba Sing Se, you're expecting them to be like, all right, let's find Appa, let's get out of here. No, they're having like their own little like side adventures, and like it's actually like a comedy, and there's funny moments, but then you get Iroh's, and it's like, wait, what the hell's happening? And it's like, so
Iroh's story is the biggest sucker punch.
I think the reason that it hit so hard was because imagine this: you are a middle schooler. You see Iroh as this, happy guy who helps Zuko, and, like, I love Iroh, he's so nice, and, like, he has such good advice, and, like, wow. And then out of left field, at that point, also as a kid, I was never really taking in that he ever mentioned having a son. Yeah. You know what I mean?
As a kid,
it goes over my head. Where I'm
forget.
like, oh, your son? Okay. like as
Zuko is your son now.
Well, yeah, pretty much. Where I was like, oh, like I didn't think about it. And then the episode comes up, and you watch Iroh weep on a hill with a tree in Ba Sing Se
on his son's birthday,
doing like a ceremony for his dead son. And I remember as a child being like, what is happening?
There's also
I was wrecked.
There's also the added layer of the fact that the voice actor passed away, I think, very soon after that.
Well, at the end of the episode, they say, like, rest in peace. Yeah. I believe his name was Mako, which was
can I just say something that never gets brought up? The voice acting in this show is fantastic.
Oh, yeah, it's
really
phenomenal.
good.
And as somebody who...
Hi, Sierra.
Yes, the cat.
We have a cat.
She's my
cat.
Sierra.
As somebody who does a lot of, voices and impressions and is very much so infatuated with voice acting and the art of that as a form of acting in its own right, I love the voice actors on this show. I think they do such a good job.
A lot of them, it's literally just that they also have distinct voices.
Well, yeah, Dante Bosco as Zuko
is just his voice.
Fantastic.
It's just perfect.
He's so perfect.
Gray Delisle is one of the best voice actresses working still. Because if you don't know who that is, she has voiced, obviously Azula is the one she voices in Avatar.
Oh, she's iconic.
But she also voiced Vicky from Fairly Odd Parents. I believe she voiced one of the Powerpuff Girls.
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
She was the Green Powerpuff. Oh my god.
She was Buttercup?
Buttercup, that's it.
Like, she is so accomplished. And then you also have Mako as Iroh. You have the fantastic, the kids. You have Mae Whitman as Katara. The kid as Aang, I think his name's like Zach Eisen or something.
Or even how iconic Sokka's voice is.
Sokka,
Sokka with an Akka! Like,
so
good.
Jack DeSena, I believe, voices.
I'm not sure.
I think you're right.
But just...
I'm bad with details.
And also, can we just also talk about the fact that they got Mark Hamill to voice Ozai? Like, it's Mark friggin' Hamill. That's so Luke Skywalker, also the Joker, and they got
He's my
him
favorite
to be
Joker.
Ozai.
Side comment. Mark Hamill Joker.
Yeah.
Personal favorite.
Well, whenever I think of the Joker, and I think
I haven't seen
Joker,
all the.
If I have
to
choose an animated Joker, it is Mark.
Well, I prefer the animated Joker to any other Joker. That's my opinion, but yeah.
That's a whole separate.
The voice I also grew up with the cartoon.
Yeah, same here.
But yeah, the voice acting is just ridiculously
It's phenomenal.
The sound, the music.
Can I talk about wait? Can I talk about one thing?
The songs are so good. Careful with your desk.
Sorry. Can I talk about one thing?
Yeah, go
about
for it.
the music. I want to talk about the firebending masters.
Do it. Go for it.
So I'm gonna
Dude,
for everyone who wanted
the kalimba. Connor literally bought me a kalimba for my birthday like a few years ago because that's the ding 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 ding.
I want to talk about
like,
one thing about the scoring of the show.
Go ahead. I don't know anything about this, so I'll just nod.
There is this phenomenal thing that you don't even realize.
She voiced Mandy from Billy and Mandy. That's who I was thinking
that's
of.
another
Not one of the Powerpuff Girls. Sorry. Continue.
Sorry, I'm confusing Clark. But anyways, there's this one beautiful thing that happens when you watch the episode and you don't notice it, but the opening theme to the show, that dun 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 dun, that kicks in whenever Team Avatar is doing something really cool.
Yeah.
There is, and if you watch every episode, you also are probably familiar with the very iconic end credits theme, where it's just like this chant, and it's nothing but percussion. Yes, and it's very tribal, it's very chant. That it's this phenomenal piece of percussion music. But every time throughout the show, you see the gang doing something really cool. It's the opening theme, the opening Avatar riff, that leitmotif, da 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 da, every time. And they're playing with leitmotifs in a show like that is hard because you're releasing these episodes week by week, and you can plan out the entire plot of a show, but planning out the music is something else. Because there are scenes where you can maybe have 5 or 6 different scores implemented into that scene, and they all would mean different things.
Yeah.
But there, like I've seen whole ass like videos that are an hour long that just talk about the Four Seasons song. And that's one of the most random moments in the show too. It's this like peaceful interlude. Some people say that the Four Seasons song is Sokka's theme. Some people say it's the love theme because it's played when multiple characters fall in love on screen.
Yeah, I think that I would probably describe it. If it's the one I'm thinking of, I'm bad with the names.
It's
again.
And Iroh sings. It's also
is it the Kalimba one?
It's not the Kalimba theme. It's one of the few times actually when a character sings diegetically in the show. And diegetically basically means like, oh, the music is happening in that world. It's not like it's scoring that just the audience hears. But it's when Iroh sings right before the invasion of the North Pole with the crew of his ship, and it's Four Seasons, Seasons for Lovers. It's like that song, and it's the Sungi Horn theme, which becomes Iroh's
Speaking of lovers, one of the best songs in the show, Secret Tunnel.
We'll get there.
Tunnel!
We're getting there. I promise.
Tunnel.
We're getting there.
Secret
Tunnel. We're getting there. That whole episode is genius.
And then we also have to root back to Zuko and Azula, because we kind of hit the middle, then we hit Tales of Ba Sing Se. We'll go back.
But here's the thing.
About like their final
the big
arcs.
thing I want to talk
about.
Back on. The big thing I want to talk about is
I love her so
every
much.
time the gang
She's such an icon.
every time the gang does something cool, you get the Avatar leitmotif. But you never get certain themes for certain characters who do have cool things. Zuko doesn't really have a theme for most of the show, or at least one that you can clearly identify. Because he has
the Blue Spirit theme.
He has the Blue Spirit theme, but that's only for the Blue Spirit, which also, interesting enough, is the same instrument used for Iroh's theme.
Did
shows that
Katara
they're
have a Painted Lady song?
She had a Painted Lady song. It was like this
that was kind of a cool little arc that she had. That was brief. I forget about it a lot, but it was cool.
Zuko's theme of not Zuko's theme. The Blue Spirit theme is the Sungi Horn, which the Sungi Horn is not a real instrument, but it's imitated to be called a Sungi Horn. It's also the instrument that gives Iroh his theme in Four Seasons. So it shows that the Blue Spirit side of Zuko is also heavily tied in with the morals of Iroh.
Oh, that's really cool. I didn't know
Diegetically, they are the same thing. Also, another thing that I noticed as a kid, but I didn't have any music theory in me back then, and I noticed it as middle school when I was starting to learn music, and now I fully realize what it means as an adult with the music abilities I have. If you watch the show, like any episode, pick any episode, start to finish, and you see the end credits theme. The end credits theme is that percussion, that that theme. Guess what? That song has one other instance in the show. It's at the end of every episode, but it's played during the Firebending Masters when the ritual of the dragon is performed. And guess what? That means two things. One,
Tell me the things.
It's diegetic, meaning it exists in the Avatar universe. It's not just scoring for the audience.
Could you tell me what diegetic means?
So diegetic is whenever something is being sung or played that the characters in the medium of whatever you're viewing know it. So for instance, a diegetic scene in Harry Potter, which is something we're all familiar with. Sorry, our cat is being adorable. A diegetic scene in Harry Potter is, at the beginning of Prisoner of Azkaban, the choir is physically singing. Well, they're singing "Toil and Trouble," right? Remember the Prisoner of Azkaban? They're singing that the song. They're holding the frogs, right?
Oh yeah.
They're singing
that. Was that a cutscene?
No, it's the intro to that school year.
Oh, okay.
That's called diegetic. It's happening in the medium. People see it being performed. It's happening in character.
Okay, I get it.
Whereas non-diegetic music is like the Force theme during the Binary Sunset, where Luke, if there's no music being played, it's just Luke being edgy outside of his house looking at the sunset. But
I wish I could whine about something
exactly.
right now.
But we hear the Force theme. That's non-diegetic because obviously there's not an orchestra right there. It's just in his head.
So a good example of because I actually wrote a paper on this in music analysis class. So a scene that shows good transitions from diegetic to non-diegetic is, if you've ever seen the movie Apocalypse Now, there's a scene where they're in the helicopters.
Music and then they turn off the radio or something.
They're in the helicopters and they
better.
play Ride of the Valkyries.
Yeah.
And everyone is reacting to hearing it, but then it fades out and now the entire orchestra is playing as all the helicopters are flying, and then it becomes non-diegetic.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So pretty much diegetic means the music
Okay,
exists
I get
in the
it now.
world. That non-diegetic is the other.
All
But
right.
we up until this point, you only think that the end credits theme is the end credits theme, and it's non-diegetic because we're hearing it over end credits. No one's there to experience it. We're only meant to experience it. Someone's consuming it. And then the Firebending Masters kicks in, and the Rite of the Dragon begins. And what do the Sun Callers play? The end credits theme, which now arguably you can call the Sun Callers theme or the Rite of the Dragon theme. But guess what?
What?
It proves to be this wonderful moment of musical synergy.
Yeah.
I cannot speak. So the entire time when like I said multiple times, the gang does something cool, they get the Avatar theme. Zuko has never had a theme, but what's happening when Zuko and Aang are working together at the resolution of the show, the third to last episode, showing harmony? Because the entire episode about the Sun Callers is Zuko and Aang go to discover the secrets of firebending together, because Zuko's lost his edge and Aang still hasn't mastered firebending. The Rite of the Dragon is about balance. They have to carry part of the original flame all the way across the Sun Caller city, up to the mountain, and present it to the Dragon Lords themselves. And what is happening in the scene? They both lose their flame at the last second. And they just have to stand there and present themselves as who they are to the dragons themselves, to be judged worthy to learn the secrets of firebending. And the end credits theme plays, and now you realize something. It shows the journey of the show itself. The Avatar theme isn't playing. The cool moment is happening with Zuko. It shows the resolution of the show. It shows the balance of what's going to happen after the Fire Lord is defeated. It is the literal closer. It shows that in this moment, back to back, accepting his place on Team Avatar, learning the secrets of firebending with the Avatar who rejected firebending previously, and Zuko rejecting the Avatar previously, can stand together and resolve their differences and create an ending.
Yeah.
And therefore, the Sun Callers theme, as it's now known, becomes the resolution theme. It becomes the Zuko and the Avatar theme.
Yeah.
It is this phenomenal moment that shows it's part of the world. This theme we've been hearing the entire time is part of the world we're in love with at this point. But it shows this wonderful bridge of I can finally stand shoulder to shoulder together and work out the differences in this world. There does not need to be bloodshed on the day of Black Suns. There does not to be bloodshed on the day of Sozin's Comet. This is what we can do. We can stand together and be proud of who we are.
Yeah.
This beautiful moment is just scored out of nowhere, and it hits you like a truck if you listen to it the first time, and you're like, wait, the episode's not ending.
Yeah.
What's happening? You get like nervous as a
Also,
listener.
the animation in that scene's really good too.
Well, the animation is
Yeah.
beautiful. The color swirl of the fire, of the true fire.
And it's not even the
dragon.
best animated sequence in the show. And if we get back into Zuko and Azula, we can talk
I
about
think
what is.
Yeah, that's the best sequence.
So
The
we-
most
we
beautiful.
had to keep talk because we left off at season 2. So in season 3 is when Zuko is back at the Fire Nation, having regained his honor hypothetically.
And he's miserable.
Yeah,
He's
he
miserable.
hates his life.
And he's basically being used as a
the
puppet.
only thing in his life right now that brings him any joy is May.
Yeah.
And even that is not enough for him.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because I do think that they have, like, you know, they go back, they have a bond. I don't think it's, like, a horrible relationship. I know a lot of people rode
a little
hard
quick.
for... I know, yeah, they didn't super flesh it out, I guess, but I mean, they kind of insinuated that it was off-screen most of the time. I know a lot of people rode hard for, like, Katara and Zuko to get together, but I think it was sweet the way that it went. I like that she ended up with Aang. I do like that. I think it was nice. But, you know, that could have been great because Katara obviously had such vehement hate for Zuko after he, you know, pulled a switcheroo.
Yeah.
But
The old switcheroo!
But yeah, I like that they showed that he was trying to be happy. We also saw more of these lovable characters that were villains previously that we get to, like, watch them be people, you know. In the Ember Isles episode,
Yeah.
we see Azula, I think we already talked about this, where, like, she struggles to interact.
Yes.
We see, you know, May and Ty Lee being kind of funny and, like, being able to be, you know,
Yeah.
like, viewed
And-
more consistently.
And when Zuko learns about the tale of Roku and Sozin, along with us as well,
Along with Aang as well.
and along with Aang, it really just opens his eyes. And I love that. And then obviously
Well,
the
I
day
think
of-
he already had doubts
Yeah.
going
And
into
then-
it. Because
and then
even
at
when
Day
he
of
when he
Black
met
Sun.
the one woman a while ago who was the refugee who had been burned all up her leg and, like, scarred.
Yeah.
And then also, like, the girl in Ba Sing Se that he tried to have, like, almost a normal relationship with, and then he kind of self-sabotaged that. I think he's had doubts up to this point, but like all he's ever known or wanted was to go home, which is a very, it's
Everyone
a very
wants
human
to go
want.
home.
Like, oh, I've been cast out. I am a laughingstock at home. I want to prove them wrong. I want to go back. I want to be someone that, like, my father can be proud of. And he gets it. And he just starts to realize, like, yeah, no, this is not really what I wanted. And then some of Iroh's teachings kind of, ring more true than
Meanwhile,
ever.
Iroh's getting swole in jail.
Shredded.
At this time.
Shredded.
And then he
So-
does, like, a weird little, don't come to school tomorrow.
Yeah, he does have a weird school shooter moment.
Don't come to school
Where he, like,
tomorrow.
the one guard that's nice to him is like, you should, like, go home. You're awfully sick.
And
No,
she's
I feel
like, no,
fine.
I'm good. He's like, no,
you
you're
need
ill.
to go home right
He's like,
now.
go now.
Ooh.
And it's like, uh-oh.
But then he also breaks himself out of prison, like a one-man
icon,
army, and it's
yeah.
the greatest thing ever.
And then when Zuko eventually confronts Ozai, they have Black's son, and then he
And he has that
leaves.
whole speech with him,
Yep.
and again, it's also,
Good
it talks
stuff.
about, like, Zuko, like many other people from the Fire Nation, which we see in the show, which I also love, is that they show that a lot of these people had been indoctrinated, or they felt that they were on the right side, especially when we see the episode when Aang goes to the school in the Fire Nation.
Yes.
Which is when you see, again, like, or the episode where we see, like, Fire Nation soldiers in, like, the boiler room, or anything like that. They humanize
the Fire
the
Nation.
air quotes bad guys,
'Cause-
which they took the time to do, which I think is so fantastic, because they're showing, like, not every person in the Fire Nation is a horrible person. Like, a lot
It's-
of them grew up believing, like, this is, like, we are the greatest nation ever, and, like, this is what we should do.
I think that a scene
which,
that is...
has some parallels.
I think that a scene that is very chilling, not in a, like, the face stealer way, but a very chilling and a very human way, is when Aang and the crew stop at the Fire Nation town that's a colony town, and Aang goes to the Fire Nation school to learn secrets about the Fire Nation, and the day one lesson is Fire Nation history, and when he answers the questions with, like, events that he witnessed.
Yeah.
And people are saying things like the one question that's very striking is asked of him is, how did Fire Lord Sozin destroy the air temples?
Mm-hmm.
And Aang has to explain that that's not how it happened. Sozin didn't wage war on the air temples.
Trying to play.
She has to explain these errors in history, and he has to explain, like, oh, the Earth Nation actually does stuff like this, or oh,
Yeah.
this happened with the Fire Nation, not that. And it's chilling.
Well, there was such a great line where I believe that they said, or they talked about at least, that, history is written by the victor.
victors.
Oh, yeah.
Which
It's
is
terrifying.
a huge... Well, they show that theme, which I think is very compelling. So, I don't know. I love, again, they took time to humanize, like, the Soans, quote-unquote, villains as well, and they showed that, like, not all these people are evil, or even the soldiers that are doing the thing aren't necessarily evil. They just are, like, people who live in this nation who believe that they've been doing the right thing. And in a way, like, I guess from Azula's perspective, she's never done anything wrong.
Yeah.
Like, in her life, she's only ever done everything she was supposed to do. And in the end, again, we can... I think it's appropriate to start
We can
jumping
jump to the-
towards
to
the
the
towards the
actual-
Well, I was even
finale.
going to talk about the Boiling Rock episode where May and Ty Lee leave her.
I know, and she, freaks
'Cause that
She
was-
loses it.
Those were the two people that
had stood
were
by
her
her.
friends.
I know.
Because Azula has a hard time making friends, as we learned in the episode with the beach. She has a hard time making
she's,
connections
again,
with people.
She's an intense personality, and she's
Yeah.
not very
So
positive.
when they leave, it's just her, and then when she gets crowned Fire Lord
she
and
can't
starts
trust anybody.
to lose her mind, you actually, like,
You feel sympathy
You,
almost.
like,
You
feel
feel bad
horrible
for
for her.
Azula. You feel bad for the
And
woman
I
who killed
think
the
that
Avatar.
that was also one of the moments that you sit there and, at least I as a viewer, also considered the, I guess, abuse and emotional toll that Ozai had on Azula, because we always talk about how upset Zuko is about Ozai and etc.
But Azula's a victim too.
Exactly, and I think
In a
that a
different
lot
way.
of people don't consider that, and she also suffered, not exactly in the same way as Zuko, but I think, like, you see, again, the way that she is so afraid of Ozai still when he kind of, like, cuts her off, when he says he's gonna go be the Phoenix King and, like, do his whole thing.
Which you can tell he's off his rocker.
Oh
too.
yeah, he's going for it. But, like, when he, like, kind of yells over her, you can see, like, the fear of a child
She
again.
recoils.
Because, again, it's, like, the idea that, like, she has been doing this to avoid that, I guess, disappointment or, wrath of Ozai for so long. And she ends up in an empty palace alone, seeing visions of a mother who, like, is calling her a monster and all these things, which must be, when you think about it, that's her own mental scape kind of coming out to attack her in, like, a self-realized moment on her behalf. And she starts to crack. And I think that Azula starts to realize, like, oh, everyone around me is gone. Maybe I'm not that great of a person. Like, what if I'm, you know, toxic? But, like, I think that she won't let herself, she won't ever change necessarily.
Yes.
Because I think that she, in being, like, I guess the perfect daughter, and the way that I find interesting compared to Katara, is that she, through losing their mother, which again happened to Katara and Sokka as well, she alienated herself from her brother and became more so, I guess, like, the favorite of her father and tried to outperform him, and she kind of did her own thing and threw Zuko away. Whereas Katara and Sokka came closer through that relationship to help each other out and protect each other. So you see again, like, Katara as a, you know, this female figure that had lost a parent, how she reacted as opposed to Azula's reaction. And again, in the Azula-Zuko situation, in terms of character parallel, I love to bring up a character to compare to Zuko, which is Jet.
Yes.
Because Jet is a fantastic character foil to Zuko, because Jet is a character that he is essentially Zuko if Zuko never was able to stop, which we saw he started to go down that path. But Jet he had people around him trying to tell him to stop, but he didn't necessarily have, like, an Iroh or, like, a, you know, Team Avatar to join per se. And Jet, we saw drive away everybody in his life, similar to what Zuko was heading down that path, driving everybody away from him in his life.
And he did it for
so
vengeance.
that he could avenge something that he lost.
His family, his home.
Yeah, again, something that he lost for his family, which again, Zuko, again, going after the Avatar in the same way Jet was going after, like, Zuko as a firebender. He was obsessive, and it ended up getting him killed in the long run because he could not stop. So I feel like Zuko is the Jet that was able to grow, whereas Jet unfortunately was snubbed out before he was able to. And it talks about, like, the dangerous direction Zuko could have gone if he didn't have these people to sort of, I guess, curve him in the right direction. So I love to bring up those two as, like, character foils. They're fantastic. But yeah, I guess we could talk about the finale and then get into...
finale, and then we have bloodbath questions. But the finale, I want to talk about, like, the finale is shot in, again, like a lot of Avatar, in parallel. We have...
Three-part finale
a three-part finale. Four-part finale.
Well, I mean, like, 3 different missions happening.
Oh,
yeah. I meant. But yeah.
Which, as the greatest finales in all of fiction are, there are 3 or 2-part finales. But the main parts are the gang is trying to disable the fleet of firebenders. Aang is facing off against Ozai, and Zuko and Katara are facing off against Azula. And the fleet sequence is fantastic because it shows...
We have Suki, we have Toph, and we have Sokka.
Yes, and those 3 are characters that have had... I mean, not so much Toph, but at least Suki and Sokka have had to prove... Can they compete with Benders?
And you also have the Order of the White Lotus and Ba Sing Se.
True, we have the Order of
so I guess you really have
4-part finale.
Because you have Iroh and...
The Order of the White Lotus, though, we knew they were going to succeed. They were the masters. That was kind of almost like
a... It was not
it was
like
the
a
launch
B-plot,
pad.
but like,
it was
it was
the launch
like,
pad
oh, something cool is also happening.
Yes.
Yeah. And they were able to take back Ba Sing Se.
The White Lotus was phenomenal.
Right.
Their assault on Ba Sing Se, and Iroh's arc gains its completion when he tears down the Fire Nation banners on the city that he could not conquer.
Was never able to conquer as a general of the Fire Nation.
He was supposed to save Ba Sing Se, and he realized that in that moment. Yeah. And that's touching.
Yeah. So that was very thematic. But with the fleet, I also love that we saw almost a little bit more of a culmination of Toph and Sokka's relationship, because we've always seen that it's been hinted that Sokka's never really noticed, but I believe everybody knew Toph kind of was, pining after Sokka, like she kind of was into Sokka.
Yes.
And I don't think Sokka ever noticed because he had a new girlfriend like every other
season.
Day.
He dated the moon, he dated Suki.
Yeah, I mean, he was thriving. He was thriving. But I think that we saw that, and there was the moment where, like, Toph was, like, fully hanging off, like, holding his hand suspended in the air,
and he dives
wasn't gonna try to let her go, and it's just, like, this whole dramatic
Can we just talk about how impressive the physical maneuver is? He
Oh, yeah.
dives for Toph, who is falling off, which she's blind, she can't see, she just falls.
Yeah.
He dives for her, he has one arm grabbing her, he has one arm... Like, he has his legs holding on to the beam that they're falling off of. And then this suave warrior is boomerang chucks his meteorite sword. It kills one guy, flicks to the other guy, knocks them both over. Yes, he loses the meteorite sword. But he, with one arm upside down, hanging with all of his strength, holding a child, defeats like 3 fire soldiers. And off the bat, which is impressive. And then Suki rams a Zeppelin
Suki,
into
the
them.
icon. Love Suki.
Suki rams a Zeppelin in them to save them, and it's fantastic. That
was a good sequence. There was suspense in there. There was good animation as well.
And
there were some funny moments.
And there's also Aang versus
Ozai.
Good.
Great.
We've been waiting for this moment. We know it's the cage match we're getting.
I think it was fantastic. Like, especially watching it as the culminating moment of the series and seeing that he creatively found a way to spare Ozai.
Yes.
I think that was a fantastic moment because we didn't know that what his solution was possible for the longest time. Like, nobody, I think, had considered that. And that is an example of, I don't know if it's subverting your expectations necessarily, but they do it in a way that is well done because it's true to his character. Yes. And you knew he was trying to do it, but you never knew how he was going to do it. And then, it's
there's
kind of
also a
surprise.
parallel in the final moments of Aang versus Ozai where you actually get a parallel all the way back to what we talked about before was Zuko versus Zhao in season 1. Because once again, we have our protagonist character, or at least what we now know as a protagonist character. He defeats Ozai. He throws him onto the rock pillar and says, "We can stop this. We can talk and we can sit down like real adults."
Yeah.
Being said by a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
But 112-year-old.
I'm not sure when at the end of the series what his age is because I know that
it's over 1 summer, so he's technically still 12.
Wouldn't he be 13 then or something?
Maybe, or like he would be about to turn 13.
Okay.
But it's he's 112 years old. But we can talk as 2 adults, and we can stop fighting right now. And he turns away from Ozai to walk down the pillar.
Yep.
And Ozai, like Zhao, showing their parallels of being antagonists towards to Zuko and Aang, he surges forward to get one last strike at the Avatar's turned back.
Classic.
And then, one last time, the Avatar state ignites, and Aang turns around, binds all 4 of Ozai's hands, and says, "You made me do this. I'm going to take away your bending. I'm not killing you. I'm
You're just gonna sit in a prison now.
I'm taking the world's wish for me to kill you and throwing that aside, but I cannot let you continue to be the Fire Lord. I cannot let you sit and talk peacefully. You've shown me you can't. I am taking away your bending." Yeah. It is the most peaceful resolution. Yeah, it is impressive.
And yet, it's not even the best part.
It's not even the best part of the episode.
The best part.
The final Agni
The best part is Appa.
Dude, it's... Appa, truly.
Stop that. Do not shit on the final
The
Agni
best part is when Momo actually
the final
Ozai.
Agni Kai.
Dude.
No, it's good.
I think that's
beautiful.
I have to say, I think that is probably one of my favorite moments within the series. Because the visual of the brilliant... Because again, it's also is it the eclipse? Is that what's happening? Sozin's Comet.
It's Sozin's Comet. It's Sozin's Comet.
Forgetting the main plot. But again, so their firebending is at like this huge
at peak level.
And then you just see, again, my favorite shot of the show, I'm going to get really specific, is specifically when you see
Appa.
Appa.
Get out of here.
It's when you see this roiling like blue and orange flame just like
the
bouncing
wall.
off of each other, this wall. It was so fantastic.
The music, the fact that there's no dialogue.
The culmination of Zuko's ultimate moment of he's been the villain, he lost his way, he's been redeemed,
it is
and
a
now
clash
he's
of ideals.
finally
And there's
fighting Azula.
And there's like 2 minutes in there that there's no dialogue. And there's really also no sound effects. You're just watching visuals and
the roar
music.
of flame.
Yeah,
you're just watching visuals and music, and it's
beautiful
breathtaking.
music.
And it's also
like Goosebumps.
The
it's
phenomenal.
Like insane.
It is the
Like
It's
that
the, it's
clip,
the best part of the finale.
The
And I know
phenomenal
the
thing about-
climax of the show is supposed to be
Aang versus Ozai.
Aang versus Ozai.
But this is
the emotional climax because this
I feel
is
like
the character.
visually it was so gorgeous. Like again, the Ozai moment was great, and I don't think there was anything wrong with it. But I do think like.
But this is what you came here
the
for.
The impact of the
This is what you came here
Agni
for,
Kai,
and you didn't know you
visually,
came here for it.
musically,
Yes.
all of it was so fantastic.
I will also say these two things about the physical fight itself and about like the actual staging of the
Also,
fight.
those two have been fighting throughout the show, and Azula
Yes.
typically is the victor, which now, finally, in this last moment...
But I got
Well-
scared shitless when Azula fired at Katara.
Well, here's the I want to
Yeah.
say one thing.
And it's like one of the last episodes, so you're like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly.
No one's
Like, you're
safe right now.
I don't know.
I
And the
want
thing
to
is,
say
Avatar
this.
is so unique for a kids show because they might just kill Katara. You don't know.
I will say
like,
this.
They might do it.
There's something about that which you say that the lightning strike towards Katara, and there's things I want to bring up with that. The first thing is when
Yo, my girl Zula, you know.
when is
I
wow.
love her.
When Azula and
Bestie.
Zuko, there's so many
Zuzu.
Z's. There's so many Z's. When Azula and
Azula,
Zuko
I think we're
are in the
besties.
heat of the Agni Kai, there's one thing you can notice. She doesn't use lightning against him until the very end.
When she starts to get desperate.
When she starts to get desperate, which I want to make a point about lightning, which I wanted to make it earlier, but I'll make it in a second.
Her hair
But
also gets undone.
the
Yo, the
fire,
bangs.
the actual firebending during their Agni Kai is not. I mean, yes, it's physically firebending. It's a physical test of firebending might. But here's the thing: if you actually watch the choreography of the fight, Zuko never goes on the offensive the entire time.
Well, also something that I'm going to interject here is that you notice throughout the show, this was something tiny that I noticed afterwards when I've seen people pick apart this scene, but a lot of the format that he uses and the reason that he's confusing Azula so much mimics other styles of bending. But
It
he's
goes back to
interpreting-
Iroh's lessons.
So yeah, so he's also interpreting, and also maybe like his interactions with like the gang. So it's like he is interpreting fire through like waterbending style, which we see a lot of Iroh's technique is like he mimics waterbenders. Iroh loves waterbenders. So you're seeing
the
this
ability to redirect
mastery
lightning
level.
was made from studying waterbending.
Yeah, but you're seeing this mastery level of bending coming from him, and it's throwing off Azula because she is, in my vision, or at least within this statement, she, I think, is the peak of classical firebending, of like the form of firebending on its own. But Zuko has taken firebending to a level where he's also grown, which Azula, we've seen, is not
Cannot
able to
grow.
do as a character. She's not able to let go in the same way that Zuko is.
Yes.
Which is his greatest strength. So we see that Zuko is like adapting other elements of these, you know, I guess in our terms, like a martial art or like these different forms that we're
flowing
seeing,
forms of the alternative
and it's
arts.
throwing her off because she's like, I don't understand like what you're doing right now.
I'll
and
even
then
go
she
as-
has to play dirty.
Yes, I will go into the topic of saying like one of my favorite shots from just the Agni Kai is yours is like you talked about the two like fire
Or like
waves
this.
going
Are you
through.
talking about the circle?
I'm talking about when Zuko parts the blue flame.
Yeah.
Because that is a direct parallel shot to Aang parting the sea at the North Pole. Because it's not a firebending
Aang
technique.
done that to him too.
Yes, it's not a firebending technique at all. It's a waterbending technique that he translates into fire. I think the stance he takes of the wide legs, the wide arms, parting the sea of fire is the culmination of Zuko's ability as a bender. But I will also go on to the lightning thing. She never uses lightning against Zuko.
Because she knows he can deflect
She
it.
knows he can defend against it. She goes against Katara. Which I want to talk about lightning in the show. Lightning in the show, and I promise we'll go back to the Agni Kai. But lightning in the show has this wonderful thematic element to it.
Mm-hmm.
Lightning is only used by two people. I mean, like generated to be thrown at people. It's used by Ozai and Azula. And guess what they're willing to do? They're two of the characters in the show that are willing to kill. They're willing to be cold blooded and
Right, because
end
Zuko
people's
only ever
lives.
redirects.
Zuko and Iroh can only redirect it. Iroh came up with the technique to redirect it. Lightning.
Well, his brother's Ozai. I
Oh,
imagine Ozai was trying to throw that shit at Iroh, and he's just
Yeah.
like, well,
Nope.
I gotta figure this out.
Lightning in the show is representative of being unable to empathize and grow. Lightning is this cold-blooded energy that even Iroh explains. Lightning is this nasty type of firebending that doesn't come from normal technique. You learn in the first episode when you meet Zuko how firebending works. It's a breath, it's a calm stillness drawing upon the emotions, and then sending the emotion down the muscles of your limbs and breathing out of your muscles to create fire.
I thought you need a lit flame.
Yeah,
Shut up.
I thought you needed a...
We're not going there!
I thought you needed a basin of fire
No.
to be able to do that.
It's firebending, based off of Iroh's teachings, is the stillness of body and the extent of emotion beyond the limbs. Whereas lightning is the opposite. It's
almost like generated hatred.
It is the disregard of emotion and just the calculated decision to send lightning.
I shall simply kill you.
It
This
is
my
it
decision.
is the dedication to be less human. That is what makes someone able to wield lightning. And Azula and Ozai are perfect examples of this. They are willing to throw emotion and logic out the window to just kill if someone is getting in their way.
Yeah.
And those who can direct lightning, like Zuko and Iroh, understand that hatred is a part of emotions, must be part of us, but it is not the answer, and that is why they can deflect it. That is why lightning is this deadly motif in the show. When you see lightning, it is the intent to disregard growth.
Yeah.
It is the intent to focus on it.
It's like an ultimate end. Like, this ends now. Like, I'm in control, it ends.
Now. Going back to the Agni Kai, she uses lightning on Katara because she cannot redirect it. She's not a firebender. It's not a technique that she would know. But Zuko's decision to not redirect it is also...
Well, I think he was also rushing.
He was rushing.
He was able to.
He was absolutely rushing, but I even would argue that even if he could redirect it, he wouldn't. Because he would... Lightning is used to redirect it, but never, ever in the show is someone who even redirects it goes for a kill shot. Even when Zuko faces off against Ozai during the Day of Black Suns and he redirects lightning, he purposely hits Ozai with less force just to knock him out. He could have killed the Fire Lord right there. And he chose not to, even with the redirection of lightning. He chose to fizzle it out. He chose to hit him with the weakest possible voltage because he is not a killer. He was not going to disregard his growth. His whole point of standing off against his father was so the Avatar could eventually face off against him. Yeah. It would have been wrong in the moment to kill. And I think that Zuko would have done the same thing, is not to redirect the lightning at Azula. He would have just taken it. Katara, and in that moment, yes, it looks like Zuko loses the Agni Kai. I would argue that Zuko won the Agni Kai. Because he, unlike Azula, did not stoop so low to destroy his opponent utterly. Every time you've seen an Agni Kai in the show...
Azula obviously was going for, she was kind of cheating by going after someone on the sidelines. But you can, get into, was that fair? Who truly won?
She got desperate, she cheated, and Zuko ended his Agni Kai to spare someone else. He won that Agni Kai.
One good last bimbo moment from Zuko. He sees his sister literally, fucking writhing, standing up, having chopped her own bangs, looking pale and sweaty, and he's like, something's off about her. I'm like, she's having a mental break. What do you mean? He's like, something's weird. She looks weirder than usual. And Azula's just, seeing, people that aren't there, and I'm just like... Oh my god,
she's screwed up.
It just it made me laugh a little bit.
The beauty of the final Agni Kai is perfect in every level, in the scoring, the art.
I even remember how impactful Azula scream crying at the end, because it's her first time that she's almost released all of that emotion, and she's truly failed as well. So it's insane to watch her sit in that failure that she's so not accustomed to, and also realize I lost. I am not going to win, and I'm alone. Fully. I've lost everything, I'm alone, and...
And that shows one other powerful message. Zuko being alone spurred his growth. Azula being alone
she crumpled it on herself.
Her.
Yeah, she crumpled it on herself. It was great. Again, fantastic show,
fantastic
pacing,
a
fantastic
piece of
messaging,
art.
Fantastic characters. There's not an area of the show that I feel is weak.
No.
Honestly.
Well, there is one episode you didn't like. What was that?
I will admit that the drill is probably my least favorite episode.
Mainly
because
that,
it's just...
I like it, but I get that it's okay.
It feels way too Death Star-y. You know? It's the drill's gonna pierce the wall at any moment. We have to send a small strike force into the drill.
They have Death Star tech!
They have Death Star. They literally have Death Star tech.
Damn it!
You got your Star Wars in my Avatar.
The slow water chopping of the steel. I get what you're saying, but I don't think it was horrible.
It wasn't
because you got to see Ty Lee
it wasn't
show her
bad.
abilities. And
it wasn't bad at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that
Your
out of
least
the
favorite,
60 episodes, I put this at 60.
I can see what you're saying though.
I'm not
chomping at the bit.
It's
to watch the
neat,
drill
it's a new
episode.
hope. Like,
Yeah.
I
I'm
don't-
good.
This is not the place
But
for
I was going
the
to
Death
Dachi
Star.
stage, and I got some power converters.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
Is it
cool.
time to do the thing?
I think it's time to do the
I
thing.
think
It's
so.
our first bloodbath of the season.
Get us,
I'm gonna actually have them write down their first answer for the show.
It's the first time that we know a question.
It's the
going
first time
into
they
it.
know a question, but they don't know the exact terms. So as we know, the rules of bloodbath, it's 7 questions for our 2 guests. I will be adjudicating today. 7 questions off the cuff. Whoever answers first, this is my questions. This is 7 questions off the cuff. They have no clue what they are. They know the format of the first question, but they don't know the exact prompt. It's simply whoever answers first, buzzer beater style, and we'll post the questions themselves starting next week, and you're gonna vote on who won. So we'll have the announced by next episode. But our first question, they do know it is pardon our French, PG-13. We get to say it I think twice, but it's fuck, marry, kill.
Gasp.
Gasp.
How dare you?
Now
Frick.
pick-
Frick.
You get one night with someone, you get to marry someone, you have to off one of them.
Okay.
Your 3 characters of choice, and this was personally. I just want to say that we had to rewrite this question because we realized the first time that this was pitched, the characters suggested were minors, and we're all adults.
Yeah,
So
true.
we chose adults for this question.
Zuko's grown up with me.
No, stop, stop that. Your FMK, your 3 candidates are Firelord Ozai,
Uh-huh.
Hakoda, Katara, and Sokka's dad.
Ooh.
Oh shit.
And
Oh, you know who's really hot? Korra. Korra's dad.
Okay.
we're not there yet.
Just saying.
We'll get
Your
there.
You're gonna
choices.
see him
So
and
it's
be like,
Ozai.
It's Firelord Ozai,
Hakoda.
Father Hakoda, and Avatar Kyoshi.
No! No!
FMK, those are your 3.
I think I know it though.
I really hope we don't.
This is the only one that's not buzzer beater, but those are your 3 choices. We have Matt's answers.
I could.
You
I
are a
could-
dangerous man.
I could tweak this, but I think this was my answer. Are they the same or different?
They are different.
Great.
They are different.
Really? They're
you
different?
you have one shared answer.
I
but,
think there's one obvious one.
so
Is it not the one I'm thinking that's obvious?
It's
All right,
certainly the
so-
obvious one.
okay, so-
Matt
You wanna
handed
go
his
first?
sheet first,
You go
so Matt
first.
gets to defend.
So I would kill Ozai because I just
Yeah.
think that there's not much to him.
But he's swole though.
I
He looks pretty
understand
good without
he's
his shirt
swole.
on.
He is voiced by Mark Hamill. Though.
I understand he's swollen and he's Mark Hamill, but like, there's nothing
it.
interesting about him other than the fact that like, I'm the Fire Lord and I'm going to channel the comet.
True.
Like, it's just
And
like,
in like a sexual scenario, that would get old really fast.
wait, so you?
No,
so-
no. Well, I killed him too.
Oh, you killed Ozai.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
This is
really
the
we're
one
just.
we were saying.
So I said I would marry Hakoda and fuck Kyoshi.
I have the opposite. I would marry Kyoshi because one time wouldn't be enough.
Oh.
And I would slam down big style Hakoda.
No,
be
see, I
honest.
think Hakoda is just such a good father.
Kyoshi
that
would never
he's-
let anything happen to me. My
No, but-
weak ass, I'd just be
But
walking
no,
around.
but I no, it's not that I'm worried about me. I'm saying like if
I
I'm gonna marry someone and start a family, Hakoda
6
is
foot.
such a great parent.
Girl, he was never there.
Hakoda, when Sokka
He went off to war.
to protect his family, and then when he comes
yeah.
back,
Likely story. Kiyoshi fucking threw Chang the Conqueror down
so you
without
want
a second
so
thought.
you want to just marry and settle down with Kyoshi?
Yes, duh.
No, fuck her. Like,
I
literally,
can do
fuck
that
her.
whenever I want.
That's not the. Nah, the bar.
Do I have to be abstinent in this marriage? Say one or the other?
I'm
We
just
never
saying,
touch each
Hakoda,
other?
Kyoshi
I respect
is
you too much, man.
Kyoshi is like this cold-blooded warrior. I don't know if I want to like
What
marry
is not
her.
selling it?
Yeah, I
No,
can't.
but
I can't
I mean,
make comments.
Hakoda. The thing is, Hakoda. I think also he's never gonna get over the death of his wife. If we know how much she was that bitch, Katara's made it very clear that her mom was clearly the coolest woman of all time because she never stops talking about her. So I don't think Hakoda would ever fully get over his wife, but I think maybe on like a moonlit night, Hakoda's feeling sad. We're both in the military. In this
We're not saying
scenario.
what's the most likely. We're saying what is the best.
No, but I'm painting you a picture. We're talking over some drinks, and he's like, "Oh, I just, it's been so long," and I'm like, "Ha ha ha!" Like, no one has to know. Your kids don't even have to know. Period.
I love it.
No, I would personally.
I think Kyoshi would keep me safe. She would pick me up in
No,
her big
Kyoshi
arms.
would intimidate the hell out of me, and I think that
No, but
one
she's
night with
soft
her
on
is
you.
plenty.
But she's soft on you, though.
No,
she's
I
soft
think
for
I
me.
think one night is plenty with Kyoshi because she's too intimidating and too like just I think Hakoda is the perfect
So
mix.
you're afraid of Kyoshi.
But I was.
It's not that I'm afraid of Kiyoshi to the point where I can handle her for a night, and I'm interested to see what that night would be like. But I feel like in terms of settling down and marrying someone and sharing a life with someone, I feel like Hakoda has more qualities that I personally enjoy.
See, I would challenge you on that because I think Kiyoshi would be more scary in a one-night stand because she's not emotionally invested in you. So she's probably going to throw you around like a rag doll, pound you with some rocks or something. I don't
Maybe
know.
I like that.
Maybe you do.
Earthbenders
But
be like...
I'm saying Kiyoshi, I think, has a soft side we've seen, where like she has this very hard exterior, but if you peel that back and you get to know her,
I also,
it's like, oh, she's sweet on me.
This is not information to sway anyone, but I just want to remind everyone that her canonical height is 6'4".
I know.
So.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Just want to remind everyone of that.
How tall's Hakoda?
Tall enough.
Tall enough. Tall enough.
All right. We got to move on.
Ozai, we'd both kill him.
It was a good fight.
Kill Ozai.
It was a
Kill
good
Ozai.
fight. It was a good fight. That was the first question. Our second question moving forward after a brilliant first round answers. Buzzer beater. Everything else from this point is buzzer beater.
So whoever answers first.
Whoever answers first defends that first.
Okay.
There is, I don't think though that we're gonna have much of a problem of like a this or that thing. We do have one this or that question, so you're gonna be fast on that.
Okay.
This is not that question though.
Can you tell us when it's that one?
Maybe.
Okay, cool.
You'll get it through context.
Okay, cool.
Our second question: the entire world is your oyster. Best vacation spot.
Vacation? Ooh, one of the air temples.
Air temple.
So one of the classic answers would be the Ember Isles, which I think is a great beach vacation.
Well, you defend in a second. But
sorry.
I still have to answer
Sorry.
here.
Yeah, he still has to answer.
I think it would
Your
be
answer is
one of the air temples. I think.
Air temple.
Which one though? There's 4 of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Can I cheat? Because I was gonna say the Ember Isles.
You can say the Ember Isles. It wasn't said.
But like you guys already mentioned that.
No, it wasn't locked in. So we have air temples and Ember Isles. Why are the air temples?
I think the air temples would be more interesting to go as a short span sort of vacation because also depending on the air temple that you go to, I mean, you could pick maybe the Western Air Temple or the Eastern Air Temple. I think there's the one that, hangs down vertically, which is really interesting. I think it has a lot of cultural influence. I think that it's very beautiful. There's animals that are indigenous to only that area. And I think that it has more to offer than a beach necessarily, not to, demean the Ember Isles per se, because it's beautiful and there's, plays and such there. But I think that the nature. I was gonna say the natural beauty and nature, but I think the nature surrounding the air temples and sort of it's almost more of a destination vacation as opposed to the Ember Isles as I'm gonna go to the beach and hang out, which I could do in Jersey. So
I could always do that in Jersey.
All right, Matt, defend the Ember Isles.
It's a fair answer, but here's the thing.
The Ember Isles is the classic though.
Ember Isles is a vacation.
Yeah.
Because that's the place where you go, as you already alluded to. You want to go to the beach, it's there. You want to do some activities on said beach, it's there. There's so many different clubs and such, and you can go see a show. What's not to love about that? The air temples have been abandoned and not taken care of for decades because everyone's been dead.
Or not Monkiatsu. What was
one
Indian
person.
Monk, man?
Monkiatsu.
Monkiatsu.
There's not much of substance to the air temples, in my opinion, outside of just it's pretty to look at. Which, I mean, it'd be cool. If maybe it's the best vacation to send a postcard to somebody because the postcards probably look pretty hype. But in terms of having an actual vacation.
Is it an R&R vacation, or is it I'm going to see something that's a once in a
lifetime?
Exactly.
Is it going to the Grand Canyon, or is it going to Vegas? Which one would you rather
what
have?
What vibes do you want?
What vibe do you want? Me, personally, when I go on vacation, I'm not one of those people where I constantly want to be hang around my hotel room and just looking at stuff. I want to be actively doing things that only this location can offer me.
Like the air temple.
There's nothing to do there. There's nobody there.
Girl,
it's not like you can even fly around on bison because most of them are dead.
Yeah, wow, bummer.
That'd be if there were sky bisons at the air temples, then I'd be absolutely.
I think that the air temples are more unique and have more to offer as opposed to you could go to a body of water wherever.
All right.
I just think that the Ember Isles, you've seen that even the...
It is paradise-esque, though.
Even the least charismatic people, like Mei and Zuko, go there and have a great time.
Yeah.
And I think that's a...
We gotta move on. I'm gonna cut it off.
Okay.
It's a good fight. It's a good fight. I love the energy that's being brought to the studio. Third question, we're gonna move on. I'm not looking for a specific one. I'm not saying you're naming one. I'm talking about a greater spectrum for this. I want you both to tell me The greatest species for an animal companion.
Sky bison.
Sky bison.
Animal companion.
Animal companion. A species.
Well,
I don't want like Appa. Like a sky bison is acceptable.
Yeah, I understand.
I have a genuine answer, and I also have a joke answer.
Well, you got to tell me what you're going to throw out of this.
So I think as
an
animal companion, I think the lizards that are super, super fast that you can run around on are great.
The runner lizards.
Yeah, I love the runner lizards because they can also go across water, etc. Also, the one that we've seen can like sniff out people.
That's the mole. That's
different.
That's
different.
the oh god, I can't remember their species.
I know what that is.
It's like a mole lizard or something.
It's a I think they're mole lizards, yeah.
I also would love a turtle duck, personally. It wouldn't.
Well, you gotta lock in an answer.
It wouldn't do anything for me.
You gotta lock in an answer. Best animal companion species. We have runner lizard, mole lizard, and you said turtle duck. You gotta pick one.
Actually, no. Fuck it. I like the big badgers that were in the
Swerve. Okay.
That were in the caves.
We have sky bison. We have badger mole.
Badger mole.
Sky bison, badger mole. Sky bison first.
We're not saying Appa is the best companion. We're saying Sky Bison is the best companion. But I'm going to use Appa. I'm going to use Appa as an example of why I think they're a good companion. A, they're practically also your car because they can fly you anywhere you'd like, especially when they're fully grown. 2, they're adorable when they're younger, and then when they get to be big, they're just like these big fluff balls you just want to give hugs to and just like have fun with and just like, take pictures with or stuff like that. They're so cool. And 3, they fly. They fly. It's so freaking awesome. All these other animals are really, really cool, but they're just like combinations of animals that we would have now. This thing freaking flies. This thing is beyond our world and would be so cool to have. And obviously, I know you said we're not like, this is not Appa, this is Sky Bisons, but we've seen how happy Appa makes Aang. And as a kid, why wouldn't you want to also feel that joy of having this loyal companion that's just always there for you?
Yeah.
Sky bison. Badger mole.
It's hard to go up against a sky bison because it's so classic. The badger mole. So the badger mole, I think, they're romantics at heart. They're helpers. They love to help others, and they invented earthbending. They're simply the OGs. And also, I do believe that earthbending is one of the most useful bending practices in terms of if you are trapped out in the woods, your badger mole can make you a house if it wants to. Your badger mole can dig you a cave. You can ride on your badger mole. You can ride under the ground on your badger mole. Azula can't find me under the ground, period. And my wife, Kiyoshi, can also come with me under the ground. We'll have our own badger mole. It'll be so romantic. And then we'll also have a turtle duck because, fun. But the badger mole, I think, would be a great vehicle. Like, there's a mountain in the way. You could fly over it with your sky bison. That's cool. I'll simply dig through the mountain. I'll simply make my own path. Nothing can stop me. I want to get through the walls of Ba Sing Se. My badger mole will actually help me. Sorry, Iroh. Think smarter, not harder next time, buddy. I've conquered all of Ba Sing Se with my badger mole. I don't know if you could conquer an entire city with Appa.
Fair, but we're not saying we're not saying your
my badger mole will become the king of
We're not
Ba Sing
saying
Se.
your favorite animal like military use. We're saying just a companion. Who do you want as your animal?
Specify.
My
I
companion
just let you
can
run
give
with
me
it.
so much.
But like Sky Bisons.
All right.
No, I definitely see. They're both very fluffy,
Also,
large
I'm
animals.
extremely biased because like
I do love a
his
sky
favorite
bison. I mean, sky bison is a very good option.
Yeah, no.
But a badger mole
I'm
can give me an
I was
entire
very
nation.
worried when you because of all the ones I was thinking of, badger mole was definitely up there. I was also thinking the penguin seals.
Oh, they're cute. I was thinking turtle duck because they're so
question,
small, so I was going to be like, you have to feed Appa a ton.
Yeah.
My turtle duck, I give
a
piece of bread.
I will say that I would have in a heartbeat said penguin seal because that's
Yeah.
rad. But anyway,
yeah, but
Seals
then
are
it's
hype.
so slow.
I don't care.
And it's like following
Something I
after
absolutely love is the fact that when they sled down that giant hill and it's like they just sled for like miles. They're like, all right, and the penguins are just like, wait,
Where do I go?
you just
now?
rode us for 5 miles. Can you bring us back home?
Yeah,
Please.
I feel so bad for them. But we gotta move on.
Yes.
Our third question. Our fourth question.
King badger mole.
Buzzer beater.
Oh shit.
The superior element.
Oh. I mean,
The superior element.
In what? What do you mean by superior?
The best element to bend.
To have.
To have.
Water.
Water.
Oh shit. I mean.
You're not the Avatar.
I mean, if I'm a firebender, I need a source of fire to bend.
We're not using the god accursed rules from the live action movie. We're talking about the good one.
My favorite character, Ong. I really
Please stop.
love him. Or how Katara's white.
I hate it.
Yeah, of course.
We need an element.
The actor for Sokka was also Jasper in the Twilight movies.
Yes, he was.
But we need an element, though.
Earth.
Earth? Alright, water versus earth. I have water first.
So...
Swamp benders, love them.
Yeah, so water bending, I think, is...
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
So, with the 4 elements, the thing that and you could disagree, but I think water bending is either the most, or like, it's damn close to the most versatile.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things you can do with it.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, there's the, I'm going to take some water and splash it at you. But there's also the fact that ice is involved. And there's also the fact that it is the direct, like, thing that beats fire. Like, it's water beats fire. Like, water puts out fire. Stuff like that. Blood bending. So the swamp bending as well. There's so many things you could do with water bending that is just higher in concept as opposed to, I'm just going to throw stuff at you. There's things you can do to alter the battle you're in and give you a direct advantage. And it also heals people.
Yeah, it's the only one
that
heals people.
Well,
you have chakra and
fire. Literally, water bending is the only reason.
It's a competition, man.
Water bending is the only reason.
I can come back from this.
Water bending is the only reason, or one of the only reasons, that there is a season 3.
Connor's gonna love this.
Because Aang literally is only alive because of Katara's water bending with the spiritual water. Right. That's literally the only reason. Right. Earth bending is cool. I
gotta hand the mic over.
But it's simply attack.
We gotta hand the mic over.
Now I hear that you're saying that earthbending is simply attack.
It's mostly attack.
However, earthbending, I could bend crystals as well. I could get some rose quartz for self-love. I could get some amethyst. I could get any crystal I want, and that would heal anything, pretty much. So, I think I'm good across the board. Yeah, so that's that. But anyway, so earthbending is so useful because let's all tap our little feet, friends. What are we currently standing on? We're standing on Earth. Earth is the most abundant of the elements. Of course, we have the issue of we're out at sea, but in terms of earthbending, you are typically always going to be able to find Earth in some capacity. We also have metal bending from earthbending, which is also very, economically viable,
Sand
which we could get into. Sand we also have. Eventually we even have lava bending as something that comes up. Also, some of the most elitely trained, organizations of individuals was the Dai Li, who were all earthbenders, which is more of a cultural thing, but I'm still going to bring it up. So again, earthbending is vast in its application in terms of course, it's very attack heavy, but you could make yourself a shelter. You could move more quickly. So you could also kind of do like an Iceman maneuver where you kind of move around and you skate around on Earth. But yeah, earthbending I think has a lot of versatility that people don't initially think of, especially also future growth, again, with the whole metal bending. And we see in future, like, where you can get, artistic with, a more permanent bending style that doesn't necessarily go away, such as earthbending.
I think earthbending is probably the most flashy.
I would argue firebending.
I guess.
Firebending is the most in your face, and firebending is useful because obviously you have lightning, and then as a future that starts to generate there's a lot of benefits.
I stand by waterbending though because it's the first element we see.
Airbending is great for a lot.
And
of
it's the one that we see the most used, and it's the one we had the most examples of how it could be used in battle or elsewhere.
All right, we have water.
Earth is very valid as well.
Also, a lot of the Earth nations are some of the most successful nations that we've seen, and the largest spread. So that I'm just saying, putting it out there.
Yeah. Good on it. Best elements of benefit. Fantastic answers. Our next question. Think over the entire course of the show for Avatar. Great. I want you to tell me, who do you think was Aang's best teacher?
Zuko.
Zuko?
Toph.
Good fight. Zuko. Why is Zuko Aang's best teacher?
I think Zuko is one of Aang's best teachers because it also Zuko didn't only teach Aang things. He also taught the extended gang a lot of different lessons about, forgiving people who might have wronged you in the past. Also, Zuko taught Aang an element that he was most afraid of, and Zuko, through teaching Aang, also grew more as himself. Whereas Toph was already kind of a master. She of course did a lot. She helped Aang through earthbending, which he struggled with significantly, but I think Zuko also having to learn with Aang made him a more competent teacher because he almost had to relearn how to firebend. And as an educator myself, I think it's important to keep in mind that even though you may have a grasp on a concept and somebody that you're meeting might be newer, a lot of the time you are going to grow as much as they are through them teaching you something that you might not never have realized. So Zuko, I think, is a fantastic teacher for Aang because not only did he teach Aang, but he taught, again, Katara, who thought she could never trust him again. And then in the final culminating moment, she realized, oh, I can forgive this person, this firebender, again, who she's kind of had this thing about. And again, Zuko also was able to teach himself a lot through that process. And it was just, I would say, one of the largest culminations within the show. And I think Aang had a lot of great teachers, but I think that Zuko almost was more than a teacher in terms that there were lessons that were taught to everybody.
Well done. Toph.
So I said Toph because I really only had a couple other options after Zuko was taken.
Yeah.
But I truly do think Toph is Aang's best teacher. First of all, it's the bending that Aang didn't. It's the bending that it took the longest for Aang to even get the slightest grasp on. And this is before he met Toph. He tried earthbending, I believe, maybe like once, and he was just like, I cannot do this. And then they see Toph, the blind bandit, and he's like, Toph is one of the only teachers, in fact, I think he might be the only one that ends up eventually being his teacher, that Aang is like, yes, you. I want you to teach me. And Toph takes a different approach from Zuko, where Toph is already very adept at everything. Mm-hmm. But the thing I like about Toph is that she finds interesting ways to teach Aang by putting him in situations that will force him to learn on his own. Because I think that's part of teaching as well. You don't want to hold their hand. You want to be able to see your students thrive without you. Obviously impart wisdom on them, but students should not be always constantly helicoptered. They always need to find room to grow. In the moment where Aang really does learn to earthbend, Toph is barely even in the picture. It's just because Toph has set up a situation for Aang that he then needs to dive deep down within him and earthbend to get. I believe it was when Sokka was trapped in that little crack in the earth or something. That was the peak of when Aang is like, I get it now. And then eventually when that happened, then Toph just becomes a great teacher, giving him lessons, doing stuff like this, and is really good. Zuko is a great answer, I'm not going to lie. Mm-hmm. But I think that the thing that kind of turns me off is that Zuko, I understand, like, he forgot how to firebend, but, like, he's not really, like, there are parts where I'm like, but, like, should you be teaching him right now? I don't know if you're in the right headspace to do that. Mm-hmm. And then eventually he gets to that point. Whereas Toph was just like, all right, you want to learn earthbending? Show me what you got. And then Aang's like, oh, okay. He tries it, like, no, try this. No, try this. Okay, now I'm going to do this. I just think Toph did all the right things to get Aang to do what he needed to do.
Right. Well, and I think that Toph brought him to an adequate level of earthbending, but I also think that Zuko, in the two of them being able to then bend, like, dragon fire, I think that they also surpassed an average level of firebending.
If we're talking...
I also think another good answer would have been Katara.
Well, yeah, that was the one I was going for, but in terms of teacher-student relationships, you could argue Zuko and Aang absolutely because of how they grow together.
Mm-hmm. I would say the same thing for Katara. Again, she was very, like...
I think Toph and Aang probably have the worst teacher-student relationship, I'm not going to lie.
Well, she was, like, a tough love...
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think that that's what he needed.
Exactly.
I think that's how it needed to be.
He's the teacher that he absolutely needed for that style because it's the one that he got... It's the one that he just didn't get. He needed to
struggle, yeah.
Like, firebending, he actually got in the first lesson with Zhang Zhang. It just went wrong. He was able to do it. Waterbending, he picked up immediately. Earthbending was the one where he needed somebody to push him.
Yeah.
And Toph was that person.
All right.
I do think the two of them both rose past their emotional blockage together, which I think was why it was so good. But, yeah, definitely.
Good fight.
That was a really good fight.
Our next question. It is not so. You cannot say anyone from the gang.
Okay.
None
So
of
not
the.
Aang, Katara, Sokka, Appa, Momo, and Toph.
I would even
Or Zuko?
or Zuko.
count? Yeah, okay.
No,
Zuko came.
So no team
one,
Avatar.
and the main team Avatar.
Okay.
Best side character.
Iroh.
Iroh.
Easy peasy.
Wow. Best side character.
Best side character.
I can't say Appa. Shit.
Appa and Momo count. You cannot say them.
No, I'm not gonna say them.
Who else other than Iroh? I mean.
There's
a lot of good side characters.
Do they have to be a protagonist?
No.
Azula.
I just said best side character.
Ooh, that's a really good one.
Azula and Iroh. I heard Iroh first.
Can you do Azula first? Because...
No, you said it first.
But I went first last time.
It's buzzer beater. Remember?
It's whoever answers first has
okay.
to talk first.
Okay. I mean, Iroh, I think, as a side character imparts so much in terms of wisdom. He has so much comedic value. So he's comedically viable. He's entertaining whenever he's on screen. He also helps push the plot and help one of our most interesting characters in the show, which I don't think is really hotly debated, Zuko. He helps facilitate one of the most interesting characters' growth in the series. And without Iroh, we would not have Zuko. I think Zuko would fall, again, into sort of Jet's unfortunate situation if he never had Iroh. I don't think Zuko ever would have been able to fully change if he didn't have someone to help him. I also think Iroh has so much depth to him, especially when we talk about his son Mako, when we talk about his past with the Fire Nation, his own revelation of, oh, I'm a part of a system that I am not a huge fan of, and I'm going to try to heal my part of that and heal my grandson or my nephew who I desperately want to help and who I view as a son, right? He's also a part of a secret organization called the White Lotus, which has been instilling peace in the absence of the Avatar for like hundreds of years, which is so baller. So again, I think that he, while being a fun, quirky character that's always enjoyable to see on screen, also has genuine impact in terms of what he brings to the table for, like, tear-jerking or like really impactful scenes. And again, one of the scenes that we all said that we loved was when Zuko betrays like Iroh and decides to join Azula. We're so upset because of the relationship that we have between Zuko and Iroh, and we see them go through the thrums of like cutting their hair together and like trying to rebuild a life, and then it doesn't work, and then, you know, this whole thing culminates. I think that he has so much to offer as a side character, and I would argue that he is more of a side character necessarily than Azula, who's kind of more of a main antagonist.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I think.
Well, good transition. Azula.
I was going to say that in terms of acting as a side character, then obviously I think Iroh serves that role and fits that archetype. But the question was, outside of the main gang, best side character, which I just took as best character
outside
who just
of the
happens
gang,
to be on the side.
Yeah.
And for me, that's Azula. We literally talked about this last episode. And this is a direct quote from many people, including the greatest film critic of all time, Roger Ebert. A story is only as good as its villain and the forces of antagonism forcing our heroes into making difficult choices. Azula is that character. You said Iroh facilitates growth in Zuko, which I agree with. Yes, the dog from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Holes?
You said great movie.
You said Iroh facilitates growth. I think Azula does as well, because Azula is the one that's constantly in Zuko's head and forcing him to make choices that either he doesn't want to do or finally realizing that this is not the person he wants to side with toward the end.
And she's also very entertaining.
Oh my gosh.
Whenever she's on screen,
she is a villain.
Like the bending's back on.
Yeah,
like she's so
looks
funny.
like the fire bending's back on. Like it's just, her charisma makes her so likable, and there is such... That character rides the line between being a very charismatic villain and a very annoying villain, and every time you see her, it's like, oh, screw you, I hate you. But the way that the voice actor plays her and the way that the writing goes about, Azula is one of those characters that by the end of the show, you don't even realize how much of a character she's been, because when you get to the end and you see what's happening to her, you actually start to empathize with her and what's going on. We've already hinted at this throughout the whole episode, and I think that that's so important that throughout the whole show, you're seeing her as just, oh, you're just the villain. But then by the end, you're like, oh no, you're like...
A child.
You're just a broken human being. And this might be a harsh criticism, but Iroh is basically a non-character character in season 3. And I know it's because of the voice actor.
Well, he passed away, so they weren't using him.
So they weren't using him as much, but for the first 2 seasons, Iroh's fantastic, but then when the story is at its peak, he's not really a factor, whereas Azula's front and center.
Yeah, I think, though, also, Iroh had already done what he needed to do in terms of facilitating Zuko's arc, and then we focused on Zuko.
That's fair.
So I don't think that detracts
I would also
from Iroh.
argue that the show gets infinitely better as soon as Azula is introduced.
Yeah.
Because season 1's good, but as soon as Azula shows up and season 2 starts, you're like, holy crap.
But again, why is that? Because we start to see the difference between Zuko and Iroh departing from antagonist to a lovable character. So again, it comes back to Iroh. That's again why.
All right.
So these two characters again are
Fair
interacting a lot with each other. But
I'm happy that these were the 2 characters we picked, because I was either
those
going
are the two that are like the
I was thinking about picking Suki, but like I'm like I don't really have a lot to say.
She's
like
a strong character, but
she's a
she's
great
not like
character.
the best, you know.
Well, before we talk about...
I mind him to Jet. And then I was like, wait!
Before we talk about what other
So I was
options, we
thinking
have
side
one last
character,
question.
and then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh.
We have one last question, and we're going long. But I'll ask this one question, and obviously you can tell this is your this or that question. So I want you to be on your best
So whoever
game.
answers first,
You have
the
to-
other person is forced,
is
to the
forced
other
to
one.
choose a second.
Oh no.
So I want you guys to be on your game. I simply ask you both. Ganjin or Zhang?
Oh my goodness. Gasp.
Ganjin.
Ganjin.
Gasp. You answered first.
Oh yeah, you don't even have to answer because you already said it.
Yep.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Ganjin or Zhang?
This episode is the most forgettable episode of the show.
No!
It's
It's
so
so good.
It is-
That's why it's on here.
The thing is, like, we like it because we're talking about how it's always a rerun and it was like on randomly, and it's like I forgot about it again until we started rewatching it, and then I was like, oh yeah, this was a thing, and then we all hyper fixated on it, like this is the best of all the episodes. But
Ganjin
I mean-
or Zhang.
I mean,
Ganjins.
it's God, I don't even know how to.
You're going through the divide. You're stuck with
Ganjins were
them.
the fancy folk.
Ganjin
right?
were the fancy folk, and the Zhangs were the barbarians.
Yeah, so like obviously right there, the Ganjins clearly have more of a moral code, and also
Yes.
don't they eventually come back and like assist in the battle, or am I thinking something completely different?
No, I don't think they
There's
ever
no
are-
split. They're just all together.
I don't think they ever come back.
Fair enough.
Most of the side characters, even the swamp people or like things like that, come back in some of the finales. The Ganjins
Ganjins and the
Zhangs
Zhangs just
never
peace
do.
out.
Yeah, but like again, the Ganjins, they have more of a moral compass, I think.
I would disagree.
Fine, you talk now.
I mean, the Ganjins simply took the Zhang's, champion, and they wrongly imprisoned him. So I think that's really messed up of them to do. And I don't know where you're coming with this whole moral code. Up on your high
Can I
horse.
be completely honest? I've seen this episode once.
Me too.
I can't really give you
Well, I've probably seen it a
concrete
million times,
reasons
but I
of
don't remember it.
differentiating between the two.
You've got to defend your answer, though. Ganjins.
They're just better, I think. Personally.
Wow, the elitism.
Wow.
I can't believe it.
What is with the Zhangs, then?
We are hardworking folk, and our guy was wrongfully imprisoned. You are the bourgeoisie, and that, I think, is bad.
Yeah.
Period.
Fair.
Period. What else do I have to
Alright.
say?
Fantastic. Zhang Ganjin. I knew that Connor and I were brainstorming these questions before the show, and we looked at each other and was like, oh, Zhang or Ganjin.
Yes.
Like, oh, we gotta ask that because we hyper fixated on it way too much.
Can I ask a quick question for the whole group before we end?
Oh,
Sure.
But the Ganjins.
Okay, we're still going.
Matt's gonna try.
But
He's
the
like,
but the Ganjins, I believe that
They had
were-
more drip.
They had more. They had great
The
outfits.
drip.
The fit.
They had great fits. 'Cause
I
they
mean, we had, like, those
I believe
very,
the
like-
white and gold and all that
yeah,
stuff.
they were very luxurious.
Very
whereas
nice-
we were like very rough
nice-
and tumble.
Very nice facial hair. Yeah, I mean, I just think
Are
the
you
Ganjins.
Wikipediaing
Yes,
the
I am. 'Cause
Ganjins?
I'm looking up facts
Give
to
me
back
Ganjin
my point,
facts.
and it's just
That's
I think
cheating.
they have more.
They have more,
Drip.
you know.
They have more drip.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
All right.
We just wear like dead animal pelts.
And I need to watch the episode again, clearly.
Yeah.
Fair. Well, we still have our
What's your
answers,
last?
so-
I love this question because actually.
Good fight, by the way. That was good.
Oh yeah, I think
Fantastic
it's a good one.
fight.
I feel good about it. I don't think because there was a couple questions that I was like, ooh, that's a really good one.
There are also ones I think I
feel
lost too.
Well, yeah. So I think
Absolutely.
I think it's split.
This will be a good fight.
I think depending on how people receive it.
Yeah.
But I always asked these two quick questions. Like, if you were a bender within the Avatar universe, what do you think your element would be? And two, if you could live anywhere, kind of similar to the vacation thing, if you could live anywhere in the Avatar universe, where would you live? Because I wouldn't live in the air temples, because I would fall.
Yeah.
I would fall to my death.
Dead.
But I'd visit. I'd be, like, very careful for a little bit, but then I wouldn't want to live in, like, this ancient ruin.
Yeah.
But...
Well, I took the quiz, and it said that I'm a waterbender.
Is that what you feel in your heart of hearts?
No.
What do you think you are?
I feel like I would be more of a airbender, personally.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that.
I even though they said I'm a
You think you could be a
waterbender.
monk in a different
Oh
life?
yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Like, if your life went different, you think you would do well in a monastery?
Also, I want Appa.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. What
That's your
about you?
main incentive. No, you go first,
Oh, okay,
because
go
you
first.
haven't been able to answer any questions.
Fair enough. As far as bending, like I've taken the quiz and I've gotten waterbender multiple times, which like
I feel like you're an earthbender,
I definitely get
though.
that, but I've always like seen
Like,
the
the vibes
earthbender.
of an earthbender, I feel like you have.
I just enjoy the Earthbender Society. I like earthbending. I think that earthbending is definitely my heart of hearts. Like I would want to be an earthbender. I think I exude earthbender because I'm a bit I'm eccentric, but I'm also like that very like stubborn kind of personality.
King Boomy.
King Boomy. I'm
Great
just
side character.
I'm just
Yeah.
crazy all the time. That's it's my spirit animal is King Boomy.
You can turn people into rock candy.
Yeah. I can't believe no one said Bulldog Rabbit for their.
Yeah,
for
but that thing...
It was either for me it was Penguin Seal, but like a secondary
it's gonna
was
eat me
Bulldog
while I'm
Rabbit.
asleep. It's gonna eat
The
me
Bulldog
while I'm
Rabbit's
asleep.
so fun though.
I
But
was also just gonna say bear
yeah,
from the Earth King.
there's a singular
Just
bear.
a bear.
So what bender are you?
I believe that I'm a firebender just because I know myself. I desperately for the longest time wanted to be an earthbender.
firebending's back on.
But I think that, like, knowing that I am, you know, a passionate person that is very driven and I go after what I want, I think that I just give off more firebender energy. But for so long, I was like, I'm an earthbender. And I remember Connor being like, huh?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
We all looked at you funny for that.
And I'm like, yeah. I mean, for the longest time, I thought it was like an earthbender Hufflepuff.
Well,
Which is
I
deeply-
now it's the complete opposite.
I just really didn't, I think, know what was up with me. But
wait, are you
What-
Slytherin?
You're
I'm a
Slytherin.
Because again, it's like the same. I mean, you know, without like the blatant racism
What are
and Nazi.
what are you
thing.
again? Hogwarts house off topic.
Hufflepuff.
Well, I
Well,
only ever,
okay.
whenever I got the quiz, I would get Hufflepuff mostly, but then I would also get Slytherin randomly.
Well, no, because aren't you a Ravenclaw?
I'm a Ravenclaw.
And Connor's Gryffindor.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
And Grace
but-
is a Hufflepuff.
So between the four of us, yeah, there's
Yeah.
all the
But I
houses.
think that also when I looked at what a Slytherin is actually, as opposed to being like, I'm a bad guy, I agreed with it. But also, what place, you know what I mean, like driven and so on.
Yeah.
But
What place would I
what
wanna
place?
live?
I think I would live in Ba Sing Se. And I understand
I
there's
was
a
gonna say
large
that too,
disparity,
yeah.
but it's the safest place. Like, there is no
There
war
is
in
no
Ba
war in
Sing
Ba
Se.
Sing
No
Se.
more Ba Sing Se. What are you
So,
talking about?
I'd be safe. I could
You'd
live in
be
that
the
middle,
happiest.
but I'd live in that like middle tea shop area. I think I would live around
Okay.
there. I think Kyoshi Island's a good option
Yeah.
too, but I think like Earth Kingdom Nation.
I was even just gonna say like one of the Earth kingdoms that just happens to be one of like the outskirts that they go to. I think are pretty cool too. But Ba Sing Se, I was actually also gonna say because again, it is I like a big city feel. In terms of just like I love going to New York or like Chicago or Boston.
Yeah.
So if I lived at Ba Sing Se with all of these wonderful shops and all these wonderful people, and the fact that it is peaceful, maybe for the wrong reasons, it would give you a sense of security in this world that you don't even know is falling apart.
Sean's gonna live with the swamp people.
As fun as that would seem, no.
Very Delaware.
I would
think
also
very
be,
Delaware.
I would also want
Um,
even though they might just like why the hell would you want to live there? I actually really like winter and the cold.
Well, Connor has
So
always
I-
said he would want to live in the
Northern Water
Northern
Tribe.
Water Tribe.
That's the
But
other reason.
I thought about saying the Northern Water Tribe because I love the aesthetic of the Northern Water Tribe, but I have to say like that would be second place. Weird, oddly specific pick. I really loved the Fire Nation colony in the episode of where they met Zhang Zhang.
Yeah?
The fire festival. Oh my god!
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that town was beautiful.
Not
The
bad.
festival lights were pretty. I love the setting of that, and plus, like, I love the arts. I love performing. Like, same vein of saying the Ember Island. Like that Fire Nation colony was such a like artsy place. Everyone was just like mass everywhere. Musicians in the street. Plays and fireworks shows.
I'd probably live with the swamp people.
It's
too,
such
to
a
be honest.
fun little community, man. I know it's Fire Nation territory, but like,
Uh-huh.
that one singular town looked so
Yeah.
fun and bright and colorful that I would love to live there.
Yeah. I usually pick Ba Sing Se because I think that I could live a happy life there and I would be safe because also it is wartime.
Yeah.
But I'm not as much of a city person. Like, I do like the city. I like to be in it, but sometimes I feel overwhelmed. Ba Sing Se is like, more of an ancient style city, so I don't think it would be like living in Philly. But
Yeah, God forbid.
because I love to visit and I love to be there sometimes, but I like to also, have nature and stuff. So like maybe I just live with the swamp people. Maybe I'd do that.
Fun.
That could be fun.
All fun.
So, but yeah.
Good answers, everyone, though. Fantastic bout from our two competitors for
I think
Bloodbath.
that was a good fight. I think it was a good
Yeah,
one.
That was a good,
think
clean fight.
I might have lost my first bloodbath.
Wow, thank you. Big prop.
Well,
I
you
really do.
We have to say on air that you
The
did
only-
technically lose against Caroline for...
Yo, my homie Caroline,
You-
shout out!
You did lose against Caroline during our
I
MCU
love
matchup because, granted, we don't know the end results of that because
Hey,
we just stopped
all I
posting
know-
them. But
all
at
I
the
know-
time of
All I
posting,
know is the
Caroline
Hulk
was in the
movie.
lead.
All,
The Hulk movie,
all
baby!
I know is that I still have, I believe, 4 wins under my belt. From the 2 Star Wars
I know
episodes.
where you're going with this, Sean.
I have a win from the TV episode.
Sean is quivering.
And I also have a win somewhere else.
What about you, Sean?
Sean has a big old goose egg in the W column.
I'm
shit.
zipping 5.
His
I don't
one
care.
claim to
shit.
fame is that him and I tied in the WandaVision bloodbath,
Oh,
which
damn.
props to you because you didn't lose. So at least you're making steps there.
Damn. See, look, I'm gonna kick him off his high horse for you.
I hope
Don't
you
worry.
do. I
I'm
really
gonna kick
do.
him right off.
I can't be
All I know
biased,
is that
but
I
want you.
have friends.
All I
that,
know
vote
is
for
that
me
my 6'4"
passionately.
wife, Kyoshia, and I,
It is-
and our Badger Mole are gonna dominate Ba Sing Se, and I'm gonna be the king of that
I hope
city,
that they do.
actually.
But
all
yes.
I know is that Ganjin's over Zhang's for reasons
How
I'm still coming up
dare
with.
you.
We have gone severely over time.
Oh, oopsie. How long have we gone?
This might be our longest
This is
episode.
our longest episode to date.
Oh, really?
So,
Oopsie.
We're doing great. But
The
it's
longest
fine.
episode
You got
we
me
had
monologuing.
We stopped caring about
You sly
the
dog.
You got me
monologuing.
We stopped caring about the length of these episodes anyways. So, but
We're very
regardless,
entertaining. People
before
love
we
it.
go
It's
into
okay.
absurd lengths, it was a fantastic episode.
Your mom, when she sees my... your mom.
That's fantastic. We're keeping that in the audio. Fantastic.
You and your mom.
Colleen, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you for being here. And the opinions
Thanks
are
for
great.
letting me monologue
Thank
about,
you
like,
both
my
for showing me
favorite
this show.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. It's like my favorite show of all time, so thanks for letting me sit and monologue about it for
You
an
call me
obscene
monologue.
amount of time. But I appreciate it. It was very fun.
And I know that at some point we'll have you back for sure on the show.
Hopefully.
Breaking Bad episode.
I'm stuck with you, so.
What does that mean? Whatever. It's fine.
Everything is great.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, all I wanted to say to close out was to just remember that no matter how crazy life gets, everything is fine.